say I will honor however they want to introduce themselves, but if you could also tell me which victim they relate to, if it's not self-evident.
Sure.
That would be great as well, and I'm going to keep a list.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
Go ahead.
All right then, I believe our first speaker would be Lori Loken.
And if it pleases, is this on? How's the volume?
Looking good in orange, Darryl.
There we go. If it pleases the court, Your Honor, one of my staff will actually go let Court TV know when a minor is coming next.
Thank you, I would appreciate that.
All right. And are you going to say the victim that you relate to, or I can tell the court this is for victim you?
Thank you. Good morning, ma'am. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. I'm addressing the court. Is the microphone on? Yeah, it is. Okay. I'm addressing the court, but I also want to direct my comments to Darryl Brooks Jr. My name is Lori Locken. I was walking with the Catholic community of Waukesha, my church family. We were celebrating the joy of the season in preparation for the birth of Jesus when you made your decision to drive through the parade route. It truly amazes me that you deny your accountability for the damage and hurt that you have willfully caused. In the years ahead, I urge you to carefully consider the sorrow and grief of the Waukesha community and the world at large. Ponder the loss of lives within our families, the physical and emotional injuries that may never heal, and the sense of personal safety that you robbed from us. As for me, you never gave me a chance. I turned around and it was only seconds before you hit me square on. I clearly remember feeling the impact. The searing pain of that blow is as clear to me today as it was a year ago. Since then, I'm healing as best as I can from the physical injuries, but you took away my peace and my trust, something that I will never regain. My prayer for you is that you will find your salvation in the midst of this evil. I hope that you will repent for the heartache you have caused so many. I too pray that your own personal wounds that you have sustained through your life, which has created so many demons in you, will be healed through this action. Thank you.
Breaking out the Bible. Start reading, Darryl. I'm not sure you're going to find what you're looking for in there, but, you know, give it a shot, man.
I'm Bill Mitchell, formerly known as Victim ZZ. To you, Mr. Brooks, I'm charge 52. On November 21st, 2021, I was marching with the Catholic community of Waukesha and the Waukesha Christmas Parade. I was walking in the back and I noticed our banner was flying up because of the wind. So I went up to hold down the middle with so people could read it. I was joined by a priest who helped hold it down. We walked almost the entire joyful parade route when something caught my attention. I turned around and saw a headlight. And then I was hit. I didn't see the driver, and I didn't see the type of vehicle. I flew over the hood and ended up on the ground with 8 broken ribs, bruised lung, a fractured hand, finger, and my face was slashed open in several places, required stitches. Strangers and friends came to my aid as I lay bleeding in the street. I spent 3 nights in an ICU. The recovery was slow. My hand still has painful cramps that freeze in my fingers. But I know I was lucky. Others had a lot worse injuries, and 6 died. The impact on my family was great. My wife was home recuperating from surgery when she received the call I was hurt badly and on the way to a hospital trauma center. Not able to drive yet, she had to wait for my son and his fiancée to pick her up and drive her to Oconomowoc. And after I was released, she had to do a 180 from patient to be my nurse and help me in even the most basic tasks. The stress had slowed her recovery.
Oh, look at that. With his hands folded. Oh, he's praying.
We had to rely on family and friends for transportation to doctors for follow-up care for months. Neighbors pitched in to do my yard work and snow removal. Youth from the neighborhood decorated the inside of our house for Christmas. This crime had a ripple effect throughout the community. I do want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your diligence and sacrifice to be here. I tell people I was blessed because I didn't see the carnage that night. I just saw people helping me. But the jury and all of you had to watch the entire awful scene on videos and hear detailed reports of what happened. I'm sure that's going to stay with all of you. I wanted to thank the judge for her patience and knowledge, the police, Detective Casey, for their thorough investigation and quick arrest, the prosecution for presenting such a strong case. A special thank you to Jen Dunn, Carrie, and the entire victims assistance team that informed, comforted, and listened to the many people impacted by this tragic event. Finally, I can't bring myself to thank the defendant, but the response to the evil act he did shined a spotlight on how strong, supportive, and loving community we live in. Many people and organizations stepped up to help me. Family, friends, neighbors, co-workers, first responders, Aurora, doctors, nurses, my church family, the Catholic community of Waukesha, Knights of Columbus, AOH, United for Waukesha Community Fund, Catholic Charities, and so many strangers offered support and prayers. The vast majority of people are good. That said, then there is Mr. Brooks. He is a unique individual who can have a clear conscience after running over kids like speed bumps and killing 6 people. I would suggest someone without a conscience. He doesn't ask for forgiveness. He doesn't admit to doing anything wrong. It is never his fault. When he slapped a woman, it was her fault because she made him mad. I believe if he made it home that night with the red SUV, he would have told his mom the damage wasn't his fault. He was in a hurry and people didn't get out of his way. Some crazy old fat gray hair guy body slammed his hood. I didn't watch all the trial, but the parts I saw showed Mr. Brooks had a lack of empathy for his victims or remorse for his actions. The only regrets he seemed to have is that he was caught and the impact on his own life. Free, he would probably not drive through another parade, but chances are someone so self-centered as Mr. Brooks will hurt other people again. The only life he seems to value is his own.
Oh, no, now he's shaking his head, baby. He's deep in prayer.
I don't believe that Mr. Brooks will think about me or any of his victims ever. The feeling is mutual. I really don't think much about him now, but when the prison door closes on this felon, I won't think about him again. I do
You
hope
and me both,
Mr. Brooks
bro.
will use
You
the
and me
Bible
both.
for more than a courtroom prop. He may want to start with the basics that I know his family had taught him, thou shalt not kill. But then you might want to read Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. Your Honor, I hope you give him the time to read and study the Bible.
Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. Let's look it up.
The trial a circus. It is not a circus. It's not even about Mr. Brooks. Today, the court will hear what the trial is about. The victims.
Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he
I will ask the
sows.
court for a sentence that keeps the defendant,
Nice.
Darryl E. Brooks Jr., away from society forever. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Brooks, my name is Jason Peckloff, and I'm with the Catholic Community of Waukesha. I was one of the victims you hit with the SUV you were driving on November 21st. What you did to my Catholic community and to the city of Waukesha show that you had no regard for life. What makes it more disappointing that you have shown no remorse for what you have done. While you're sitting in prison, I want you to reflect what you have done. I want you to reflect that you nearly took my life. I almost lost the chance to see my wife and kids again. I may have never had the chance to love or hug them again. You intentionally harmed my community, whether it was physical or psychological.
I'd much
You
rather him
stole
do
our
this
innocence
praying
that day.
act than,
Before
being
that
disruptive
tragedy
acts.
you created,
So if he wants
it
to
was a
like fake
beautiful day
prayer
we all experienced,
and drown
never
it
thought
out
an evil thing like this could ever happen at a
while
parade.
people say their piece, fine.
My friend, myself, and the Waukesha Catholic community were asking parishioners and their families to participate in this parade. Imagine the guilt we must all bear for the rest of our lives. Because of your actions, I was out of work for about 6 weeks. Then I had to go back part-time because of my sustained injuries. Because of your actions, the multiple lacerations you created leaked out of the bandages and onto my bed comforter and sheets. What an awful visual to have. Because of your actions, I could have lost my foot. Thank God my nurse friend was checking on me. Because of your actions, my wife cannot get the images out of her mind of what you have done. You have forever scarred her. Because of your actions, my wife had to hand over my children to our community friends to check on my lifeless body. Because of your actions, my children, 4 and 6 at the time, had to go with a grieving friend to find her own child that was in lockdown. It took a while for them to be reunited. Because of your actions, my children are scared to death when they had to cross the same street you drove down. They were bawling and begging me not to cross the street. Because of your actions, I need to reassure my children that it is safe at parades. Not sure they ever feel 100% safe. Because of your actions, not all people in our community are ready to go back to the parades. Again, you stole that innocence from them. Because of your actions, my children are scared of sirens. Because of your actions, they were scared of red SUVs every time they saw one. They cried and hid. Because of your actions, I walked into the entrance of my children's school and felt like a triage unit. I saw children on crutches and a walker. What an awful image to be burned into my memory. Because of your actions, I feel terrible. I could not help my community and the city by testifying during the trial. Your cowardly actions did this. Your actions forced my family to seek out therapy and resolve in their minds what happened. Your actions made us second guess what we did that day. What could we have done differently? During this trial, you show no remorse. It makes you look like a monster. During the trial, you show little regard and respect to the court. It makes you look disrespectful. During the trial, you treated multiple witnesses terribly. You were trying to twist the words of our pastor, who is a man of the cloth. You made a comment to a witness you injured that he was walking fine now. It makes you a callous jerk. Despite what you have done to my community, I forgive you. Forgiveness does not remove the need for justice. Justice must be served and you must go to prison. My prayer is that forgiveness will heal your wounds and the wounds for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Margaret Petrulis, victim BBB, count 54. I know I am blessed to be here today to present my statement to the court. Darryl Brooks's choices on November 21st, 2021 took a toll mentally, physically, and emotionally on me, as well as affecting my family. I remember the moment someone yelled "car," and I turned to see a vehicle behind and to the right of me. My thought was, what is this vehicle doing here? After that moment, I have a void in my memory. My mind won't let me see what happened. I remember my thoughts. Oh my God, this can't be happening. Please, not my hip, not my leg. My next memory is lying on the ground with a person from our group and a nurse talking to me and asking how I was. They worked on keeping me calm and from going into shock. I will always be grateful to them. Every night I would lay awake and replay the incident to see if I could get the memory back. Months of counseling and the passage of time have helped me be somewhat okay with not knowing what happened. One of my fears is that when I least expect it, the memory will return. After being impacted by the vehicle, I was laying on the ground with severe pain to my left leg. Emergency people stopped by, and one questioned whether I had been shot, and all I could think of is why would I have been shot? I was eventually lifted into a police SUV and taken to Waukesha Memorial Hospital. I was examined and was released after being diagnosed with a broken bone in my left foot. I was instructed to wear the boot provided by the hospital, sit in a recliner, keep my leg elevated, and not put any weight on my left foot. I was instructed to follow up with an orthopedic doctor the following week. I went home and found it very hard to get from the car into the house. I couldn't figure out how to walk without putting my left foot down on the ground. My stomach was nauseous from the pain medicine. My husband and daughter assisted me into the house and sat me in a chair. I immediately passed out, and when I came to, my husband and daughter were concerned that I had had a stroke. They called 911, and I was transferred to Aurora Trauma Center. I was examined head to toe and again released with a diagnosis of a broken bone in my left foot. We live in a tri-level, and I was able to get to the lower level where there is a bedroom, a bathroom, and a family room. For the next 6 weeks, I would sit in the recliner with my left leg elevated and ice packs applied. I also slept with a wedge that kept my leg elevated while I was sleeping. After experiencing more pain in my left leg, I was sent for an ultrasound, and the ultrasound found a hematoma on the inside of my right leg. Standing up was extremely painful even without putting pressure on my left foot. It would take me a couple of times of standing and then sitting back down on the side of the bed until I could bring myself to hop on my right leg using a walker for balance to get to the bathroom or to the recliner. My husband had to help me in and out of bed due to the extreme pain in my lower left leg. I couldn't dress or undress myself, take a shower, go to doctor's appointments, or to Mass without his help. Every day he had to apply gauze wrap and an ace bandage to my left leg to cover the blisters so that as they would burst, they were covered. He then applied the boot sock and a boot. Every day for several weeks, he had to prepare all meals and bring them down on a tray to me. We were fortunate that he was working from home during this time. I had orthopedic appointments and 3 rounds of physical therapy. I am still going through physical therapy. After the bone healed in my foot, I was still experiencing pain in my ankle. The pain limited me. I had trouble walking normally, could not walk any great distance. Going up and down the stairs was best sitting on the stairs and going down that way. As time went on, I was frustrated that I could not perform the simple act of walking down the stairs. Before going to the 3rd physical therapist, frustration set in as I thought I would always have pain and not be able to do all the things I enjoyed, such as pickleball, stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, walking miles, and traveling. My 3rd round of physical therapy found that the whole left side of my body was twisted from the impact of the vehicle. After 10.5 months and 3 rounds of physical therapy, I am now 95% back to normal. All the months of suffering and thinking no one would be able to figure out what was wrong, I was worried that the pain would remind me forever the choices Darryl Brooks made on November 21st, 2021. I wanted my life back. During this time of healing, I felt isolated and frustrated that the Advent and the Christmas season were happening, and I was unable to decorate, shop, or participate as I usually would during the holidays. Emotionally, since being struck by the vehicle driven by Darryl Brooks, I have felt like a victim. Every day I was reminded that I was limited by physical pain and loss of self. The world went on, but I was stuck, not able to move forward. Today, I am taking the final step forward in my journey of coming out the other side of this incident. Life is starting to look like it was before November 21st, 2021. I know I am not the same person that I was before this trauma, but now I have an enhanced appreciation for life and a stronger sense of spirituality. I am grateful to have a supportive family, supportive friends, and my Catholic community of Waukesha who have all walked this road with me. Forgiveness is a choice. I know that I can forgive you, Darryl Brooks, without forgetting the trauma you caused, without you apologizing and acknowledging your actions. This may take some time for me to accomplish, but after today, I will not let your actions take over my life. I will move on. Regarding sentencing, Your Honor, I would like to request that due to Darryl Brooks's total lack of concern for human life on November 21st, 2021, that for each count that the jury returned a guilty verdict, Darryl Brooks received the maximum sentence for each of those counts. Thank you.
I think you're going to get your wish, girl.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think you're going to get your wish. It doesn't particularly help, additionally, that he also has criminal history, including hitting people with cars in the past, so he's a recidivist.
Good morning. My name's Jeff Rogers.
So, yeah.
My children were victims U and V. I'm a father of 4, 3 of which were marching with me in the parade last November. 2 of my children were struck and injured. I also serve as the president of the Waukesha Blazers baseball and fast pitch organization and was a couple months into that job at the time of the parade. I've debated whether or not to read a statement for this sentencing. At the end of the day, I felt it necessary to have my voice heard. For my sake, for my family's sake, and for the Waukesha Blazers' sake, and for all the other victims. I'm here today with families that I love, and I'm so sorry that this happened. First of all, this event was completely avoidable, and from my perspective, there has been zero remorse, sympathy, or acknowledgement of the victims by the defendant. All he had to do was stop the vehicle when he saw the crowd, and none of these lives would have been changed forever. For this reason alone, he needs to be locked up for the rest of his life. But enough about him. This is about the impact of the event on me, my family, and our Blazers organization. I'd like to speak as a father, first of all. The impact this has had on my family and I has been immense. This last year has been full of confusion, irritation, anxiety, and depression. We haven't been able to live a normal life. The trial has been dragged out, and literally we were pulled back through to relive everything, all because this person wouldn't admit it like a man and take what was coming to him. My kids are some of the strongest people I know.
Oh, he rolled his eyes.
And they have
Look
proven
at that.
through
Look at him
the
rolling
faith
his
in God they've
eyes.
displayed throughout.
And him not being a
However, the
man.
impact this has had on them
Wow,
literally
what a
makes me sick.
jackass.
No more parades, that joy is gone. This is something that will never leave them. I'm still learning things today as well about what they heard and saw that day. I pray every night that God continues to strengthen them to push through and know that He is in control. That night when we got home, I'll never forget Caden looking at me with glassy eyes. He looked up at me and said, "I'm really glad Riley is okay," and started to cry. When my wife Stacy sat on the chair next to me that night, it felt different. She hugged me longer than normal and a lot more firm than normal and said, "Thanks for keeping our kids safe." Everyone saw on the videos that were shown, we're literally inches away from losing 3 out of our four children, and myself included. I thank God each day that He spared us and provided the adrenaline, courage, and strength to get my kids out of the way, gather all the kids we could, and pray together. My wife was going to come with us that night along with our toddler son. I play things in my head over and over, imagining what could have been if she would have come. Where would she have been standing when that SUV barreled through? I have flashbacks most days to Maya's jacket slipping through my hand. If I wouldn't have grabbed it the second time, I know what the outcome would have been. Riley still has trouble sleeping, with some nights getting out of bed 6, 7, 8, 9 times because she heard a noise or doesn't feel safe. A few days ago, I was one-on-one in the car with her, and I finally apologized for not finding her right away. Thank God our friend found her and kept her safe, but as her dad, I've lived with the fact that I couldn't find all my kids that night after it happened. I went way too long not knowing where my kids were, with panic overwhelming me.
Oof.
As a father, I can confidently say that this incident had a year-long impossible impact on me and our family. Are we managing? Yes, of course, as God is in control. Now to speak as the Blazers president. This was a happy gathering and almost the kickoff of my presidency with the Blazers since I was only a couple months in. We were getting to know each other, welcoming a new coach, our new board members, and overall just ready to advertise our Blazers program. Looking back at the pictures from prior to the tragedy, we were so happy. So much love and camaraderie. We were ready for an awesome season. I spoke just prior about my perspective during the event as a father of 3 kids, but as the president of our organization, the weight of the moment to find an account for everyone felt like it was on my shoulders. We had nearly 35 people there. I knew I had lots of help, and for that I can't thank the other parents and coaches enough. The moment was a blur, and gathering and putting kids up in the truck was the priority. From there, the kids I could find huddled with me in the theater, and we said a prayer for those injured and being attended to. I knew that the next few days were going to be intense, but I never fully grasped how crazy the following days, weeks, and months would be. The amount of turmoil and struggle for our Blazers organization was literally insurmountable. From the moment of the incident, the amount of media and law enforcement interaction was exhausting and unending. Media showing up at my door asking for individual participants' status. Unbeknownst to them, the 2 of my children were hurt. There was nonstop email flow, phone calls, planning, coordinating, and filtering through things. It was endless work. This job went from something I truly loved, from my biggest passion in life, to something I cried about for months. I went from giving speeches on Facebook Live about how cool our new indoor facility was to speaking at Jackson's funeral. From there, the community really pulled together. The amount of love and compassion that came our way was also unending. It was honestly overwhelming. For that, we cannot thank this community enough. Finally, I wanted to briefly touch on the true impact this has had on me. My faith was challenged over the past year, but I can confidently say it's stronger than ever. The hardest part about the whole incident was not knowing where my kids were, not having answers for what just happened, not knowing if more danger was coming. I knew I had Maya next to me, but when I went back and forth screaming for Caden and Riley, that horror plagues me every day. I go back to those moments quite often, and when I watch the videos during the trial, it brought back all those feelings. Pure and utter terror, that's what it was, and that's the impact it still has today. Finally, in closing, I'm a man of faith and wanted to share 2 Bible passages which have pushed me through. First of all, my confirmation passage, Joshua 1:9. It reads, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." And secondly, I met with my pastor prior to testifying, and he provided me with an excellent part of Scripture. Philippians 4. It says, "Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understandings, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." Thank you for listening, and may God strengthen us all.
Dude, that feeling of like not being able to find your kids and then like feeling guilty about that. I can't, that's wow, that really got to me. I mean, I don't have any kids, but I can't even begin to feel how that would feel. Wow, yeah.
My name is Jessica Gonzalez, and this is my husband, Juan Gonzalez Lopez. We represent the Blazers organization, as well as many others, and you could even argue the state of Wisconsin.
So she's in the state of Wisconsin.
Last night, as I thought about my
Excellent.
statement, my son scooched over on the couch and snuggled into me. He laid with his head on my lap, and I stroked his hair. We stayed like that until it was time for bed. He knows we're here today, and it was as if he knew we needed a little extra love last night. Moments like these should be pure with love and affection. But since November 21st, they are mixed with flashes and images of what could have been. Mama, I'm here. I was on the other side. This is one of the memories and words that I'll never forget and hear dozens of times a day without warning. The relief I felt hearing those words on November 21st was devastating. But I found my son, unharmed. That should be the end of the story, right? We're fine, right? Physically, yes. But fine is a word we use when people ask us if we're okay. But we're not. It was only a short time before we had readied for the parade, got our hot cocoa, and took pictures to snap a shot of the fun about to be had. Before the parade, I left him with his teammate and new friend Jackson at the Blazers drop-off spot and walked my daughter to her dance team location. With my mother-in-law visiting from Mexico, she was excited for her first Christmas parade. Stationed at the corner of the Clark Hotel with friends, my daughter's dance group waved with smiles as they passed us. She was headed to the library where I would pick her up. The Dancing Grannies, one of our favorite groups, performed flawlessly as they passed us. My son's baseball group was after the extreme dancers who were within sight. Then the gasps and screams came from everywhere, and the red SUV sped past us. I yelled stop and put my hands out like I had the power to make it happen. I felt like I was punched in the stomach when I realized the SUV came from the direction of my son's group. Panicked and lightheaded, and knowing my daughter was safe, I ran to find my son. Running through the streets, my legs felt like they had a life of their own. I found Jackson first. I saw his little body in his Blazers jersey. His eyes looking up, looking nowhere. I knew he was hurt badly. Seeing Jackson on the ground, I began looking for my son amongst the rest of the bodies. I screamed hysterically, searching frantically. What ifs filled my head. I heard Mom from so many directions, but it wasn't him. Finally, it was. I turned to see him with other Blazers who were in the team truck. He called out to me, "Mama, I'm here. I was on the other side." Yes, I found my son unharmed, but after, the chaos continued. We ran. I covered his eyes as we rushed back to our group. I called my husband to tell him something terrible had happened, but had no words to explain. Headed for the library, we were told there was an active shooter. We ran again. I covered my son's head with my arms so bullets would hit me first. He cried. I tried to assure him and myself that things like this don't happen. At the library, I ran up the stairs and shouted for my daughter, who was huddled with a friend and her daughter. Yes, I found my children unharmed. But after, the pain and terror continued. After the parade, we discovered people had died, and that several people in my son's group were hit, including his coach and teammate. We learned that my son's teammate was in critical condition, but I already knew this. I still see his eyes without closing mine. What does it feel like to attend a funeral of a child your age? I hate that my kids know. I hate that I didn't get a chance to cheer on my son and Jackson during the baseball season last year. I hate that my son said it was weird having one less teammate. For more than a week, it was late nights to avoid sleep, and our family of 4 piled into one bed. There was no question this was a traumatic experience. Counselors were available. My son didn't want to talk about it, and today still doesn't. I tried to return to work. I tried to return to teaching. I couldn't make it through a day without feeling hypervigilant, startling at every noise, having a panic attack from the sound of a door, shout, thud, gasp, anything and everything. After the parade, I couldn't make it through a day. My joy disappeared. I felt guilty. I had no right to feel joy since my son and daughter were alive and others were not. I was open about questions my kids had, but I cried and screamed in agony when they weren't around. I overreacted, shouting and pulling my kids near in the parking lots and streets, or any time I saw a car come within a quarter mile away, convinced they all had ill intentions. PTSD throws all the punches. I left my career to work intensively on healing in a program for PTSD. I have only just returned to the workplace, only just a month ago. Something quieter, something with less action. Because after almost 1 year, some days still feel like November 21st was yesterday.
I feel that.
Intrusive memories, hypervigilance, nightmares, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, anger, guilt, shame. These are all things I and others live with daily because Darryl Brooks drove through our joy and turned it to terror. When he suggested he could have hit more, he was wrong.
Thanks, Giselle. Appreciate
He
that.
hit everyone. The toll this event has taken on everyone, physically hurt or not, is tremendous. And it sickens me to know that there are so many others with a similar story as ours. I know some today may offer forgiveness, but for me, forgiveness is for accidents, for mistakes or poor choices that the offender expresses remorse for their actions. Darryl Brooks offers no remorse, but he did search for sympathy for himself.
Look at him. Look at him.
I cannot offer forgiveness.
Rolling his
I will
eyes.
not.
God, what a dick.
Darryl Brooks should be held accountable for every second of pain and trauma he inflicted on all of us that day, including the many years inflicted already on Miss Patterson. Free, he is and always will be a danger to society. With that, Your Honor, I ask that the full sentence is issued and he spends the rest of his days in prison without the chance of parole. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Fuck you, Darryl. Christ. He might be more of a dick in this moment than when he drove through the parade. After all this, he has no compassion in his heart.
With the Waukesha
How
believers.
dead inside is he? Damn.
November 21st, 2021, my family walked in the Waukesha Christmas parade. My boys were dressed proudly in their baseball jerseys, streets lined with smiling faces. The crowd was happy and excited. In a split second, excited cheers turned into sounds of screaming and horror. A trail of bloody bodies were left laying in the road. My family was not physically injured that day. We somehow dodged the path of the car by inches. Our mental and emotional injuries were severe, and they remain a struggle for us every day. We have the image and the sound of a SUV plowing through people burned into our minds for the rest of our lives. My children were separated, and I ran through a trail of bloody bodies that were left laying in the road. I will not forget how many people I saw. Some seizing in an intersection, some unconscious, and some not. My children cried themselves to sleep for weeks after and still do. They still wake up with nightmares, as do I. They could not walk in a parking lot without clinging to me, shaking and terrified that a car would try to run them down. We suffer from major panic attacks and PTSD, all from a day that was supposed to be happy and exciting. As parents, we have to try to help cope with our children while we do not know how to cope ourselves. My children, my family, and I, and every person that we know will never be the same after that day. There were many people that were fortunate enough to walk away unharmed. However, Jackson Sparks was not one of those people. A child, 8-year-old, walking next to his big brother with his whole life ahead of him. The next time my children wore their baseball jerseys was to a funeral. A funeral for an 8-year-old boy, their friend, their teammate, that they have spent many days playing and making memories while at their brother's baseball games. His family and friends will never see his smiling face light up a room, and his team will never be able to celebrate a win with him on the baseball field ever again. Every moment of Jackson's life that was ahead of him was ripped away by Darryl Brooks. You, Darryl Brooks, you hid in a children's playhouse and ditched your hoodie and a sandal. That playhouse happened to be my children's at the house we just moved out of a couple of months prior. That playhouse was built for them, built for my sons, and you hid there after you left their friend and teammate lifeless in a road, along with many others. You didn't just get lost in a parade route, you disregarded police and the safety of hundreds, and you disregarded life. You very selfishly ripped away the joy from the families who were there just to bring joy to others. There are many holes left in our community, but our community has grown stronger and we all have each other. You, however, will have no one. You will have no one in a cell where you belong for the rest of your life. Thank you, Judge Darryl, and we ask that please he never see the light of day again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What is he he's laughing. What an absurd figure. There is something fundamentally wrong with him. I mean, I don't understand him. No compassion,
My
no
name is
empathy.
Sherry Sparks. I am Jackson and Tucker's mom. I stand here today with my son Tucker and my husband Aaron. I'm here today to represent my family, but mostly for my boys, who were both struck down by the red SUV on November 21st. I want to give a voice to our son Jackson Sparks. Our family is forever changed. We are hurt, angry, traumatized, and broken. November 21st was a day that was supposed to be fun and filled with laughter and smiles. Instead, it became a nightmare full of fear,
He's a psychopath.
screams,
Papa.
and
He's
tears.
a psychopath.
I put the first one up.
Yeah.
My boys were walking in the Waukesha Christmas parade with their baseball teammates, friends, and coaches. It was a chilly and windy day that day, so we all layered up and prepared to kickstart our holiday season. We met up with our Blazers group, decorated the truck, prepared the buckets of candy and flyers for the boys, took some group photos, and then I left to go find my seat near the end of the parade route and wait for our group while enjoying the parade. I had no idea then the nightmare that was coming my way. Nor did I know that it would be the last time I would hear Jackson's voice and see his smile. I wish I would have known then that the hug he gave me before I went to sit down was the last hug I would ever get from him. I would have held on to him a lot longer. After the red SUV flew past us, it was pure chaos. I will never, ever forget the horrible sound of the car hitting bodies and the thud of bodies landing on the ground. I immediately grabbed my favorite plaid blanket, ran up the street to find my boys. What I found shook my world. I saw Jackson first in the arms of a police officer. He was running him to get him medical attention. My husband was right behind them and told me that Tucker had been struck also. Pointed me back to the direction where Tucker was. Can you do the second photo, please? That's Tucker underneath my blanket there, the plaid blanket. My world came crashing down at that moment. I wanted to scream, I wanted to throw up and cry. Adrenaline kicked in and I went to find my boy. I spotted Jackson's baseball hat lying in the road first. Then Tucker's hat. Then I found Jackson's shoe, which kind of led me to Tucker. I finally spotted him. He was one of the many bodies lying in the road, covered in blankets. I recognized the shoes on his feet. That's how I found him. They're sticking out from under the blanket. I stayed at Tucker's side as he lay in the road waiting for an ambulance to come back for him. He was semi-conscious, but we couldn't move him without a backboard due to his head being injured. They had run out of backboards. Luckily, a nearby shop owner / hero dragged a door out of her shop to roll him onto so we could get him out of the cold and get him warm. An hour laying out in the cold road where he was thrown from impact. You can go to the next photo, please. This is what we were facing next. Both boys had traumatic head and brain injuries. They both ended up in the ICU at Children's Hospital. Their rooms just a few doors down from one another. The next day, Tucker asked us about Jackson, if he was okay or was he worse than himself. Do you have any idea how gut-wrenching it is to have to explain your 12-year-old son that his little brother isn't going to make it? His injuries are too extensive for his little body to come back from, and that he won't be coming home with us ever again. Leaving him at the hospital was brutal. To see the confusion, frustration, and hurt on his face when he's standing over his little brother in his hospital room, taking in all the machines he was hooked up to. Tucker remembers everything up until the moment he was hit. He had actually turned around and saw the SUV coming towards them. He said Jackson was right next to him. He said he saw a few people get hit, and then he tried to run out of harm's way. He didn't make it. Being the protective big brother, Tucker blamed himself. He felt he should have tried to grab Jackson or done more to protect his little brother. It broke my heart to hear him saying these things. Tucker's physical injuries were also severe. He still struggles with memory issues and brain processing speed. The mental and emotional damage is severe. Survivor's guilt, PTSD, anxiety, he still gets headaches. His little brother was taken from him. He's suddenly an only child now. He misses his little brother and his playmate. Jackson brought out the silly in him, and life will never be the same without him. You can go to the next photo. Every holiday, special event, family function, vacation, there will always be an empty chair or space where Jackson should be. Jackson's absence is very prominent. Every day we face that vacancy, and it triggers sadness and trauma. Jackson's life was taken from him and taken from us. Life isn't the same without him, and it never will be. This morning, I should have spent the morning making him breakfast, taking him to school, hearing about his day later. Instead, I'm standing here in this courtroom, asking for justice for my boys. We came so close to losing both of them that day. I miss Jackson every second of every single day. I feel gutted and broken. It hurts to breathe sometimes. It hurts to live without him here. My mama's soul aches for him. I am emotionally and mentally exhausted. The pain I carry with me every day feels so heavy. Yet I have to push forward, still be there to help Tucker heal, and move forward with find our new normal. You can go to the next photo, please. As a family of faith, we know this man will face God's judgment someday for his actions. Until then, we feel it is this court's duty and responsibility to all the victims to sentence this man to the maximum penalty allowed under Wisconsin law for each and every guilty charge. We feel this man does not deserve to see freedom in our lifetime, nor our son Tucker's lifetime. We have learned throughout this trial that this man is incapable of empathy or remorse. He has shown no sympathy nor apology for all of the pain, suffering, and loss of life he has caused to so many. This man not only took Jackson away from our family, he violently ripped Jackson out of our lives. Jackson was only 8 years old. 8. He only had 8 years here with us. He was robbed of everything. He'll never get to hit a home run, catch frogs with his brother again, meet his wrestling hero, Braun Strowman. He won't ask a girl to prom. He won't go to college, get married, or have children of his own. Jackson will never be able to do any of these things. These milestones will never happen. He was a bright light in our lives. He was very shy to most people, but those close to him, to his family, he was a big ball of energy. He was charismatic and full of light in life. His life was cut out way too short. Jackson and the other victims deserve justice. We deserve closure in order to heal and find our new normal. We hope to achieve that today. Thank you. And thank you, prosecution, Judge Darryl, very much. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
At this time, Your Honor, we'd like to request a break and bring in the second group.
Yes, the court's going to step off as well while you do that. We'll take about a 10-minute break.
Thank you.
Okay, well. Good morning, everyone. We are learning from the misfortunes of others, that's for sure. Wow. That's a lot. Darryl Brooks continues to, is it possible to continue being amazed by Darryl Brooks? Is it possible? I think he continues to amaze me. I think that might be the right word. I'm not 100% sure, but like, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to put myself in his position, or like, I'm trying to think how I would respond in this situation. Maybe that's the right way to put it. Like, how would I feel? How would I respond if I were Darryl Brooks? Like, could I imagine losing my temper so much to create some kind of incredible evil that would be somewhat comparable to what Darryl Brooks did? And I think the answer to that question is yes, I can imagine that, because the shadow lies in all of us. That's the real trick. When we hear stories about monsters from history, you know, we like to imagine ourselves in the role of the savior. You know, we'd much rather imagine ourselves, for example, as Oskar Schindler versus, you know, one of the soldiers for Germany. Or we'd much rather imagine ourselves as one of the abolitionists in antebellum South, rather than as someone who was either, you know, a slaveholder or complicit or just whatever, right? But the reality, one of the things I've learned from reading, for example, like the Tao Te Ching, and thinking about the shadow and Jung and the darkness, is one of the and reading stories about the evils of people and how evil can, how ordinary men, I've never read the book, but I've heard a lot about it, you know, how a group of ordinary, normal police officers, for example, in World War II Germany, became this troop of absolute depravity, and how that can happen. So, can I imagine myself as someone who has the shadow? Can I imagine myself as someone who has darkness in my soul? And I think the answer to that question is yes, because I think we're all capable of darkness. I think we're all capable of evil. I think to imagine otherwise is to fool ourselves to some degree. But what is more difficult for me to fully contemplate, and maybe it's the limits of my imagination when it comes to my potential for darkness, for the potential for the shadow. Maybe it's the limits of my imagination. But what's harder for me to contemplate is his reactions today. They seem more inexcusable. They seem more evil, right? It seems more character. It seems more character. This also goes to this idea of what's sometimes called the fundamental attribution error. When we look to ourselves, we see circumstances. When we look to other people, we see character, right? This is why, for example, this is the nature of hypocrisy in some degree. This is the nature of what is at the root of hypocrisy. Why we judge other people differently than we judge ourselves for the same behavior, right? One of the key reasons hypocrisy exists is because of this thing called the fundamental attribution error. It's the tendency that we all have, that when we look at behavior, we look at the exact same behavior. If it's someone else, we see character. If we look at ourselves, we see circumstances. It's not that I'm a bad person. It's that I was driven to this through XYZ. But for the other guy, XYZ is irrelevant. It's because he's a bad person, right? This idea of this fundamental attribution error. And so I suppose in some sense I can understand I suppose in some sense I can understand to some degree, somewhere, the idea of feeling justified in myself to perpetrate an evil. But what I'm having a much harder time understanding is his continued behavior today. Right? I can imagine myself in a rage. I can imagine myself feeling justified by circumstance. I mean, you read enough of this stuff and you understand it. But what I'm having a tough time with is his behavior today, with his laughing, with his eye rolling, because I'm having a really difficult time. I'm having a really difficult time looking into myself and finding darkness that would allow for that. And maybe I'm just not imaginative enough. Maybe that's the problem. But I'm having a really hard time looking into myself and finding enough darkness in myself to feel this way at this point. With as much time as he's had to reflect, as much time as he's had to see the horror of his actions. And for him to apparently feel nothing, for him to not have any empathy or sympathy or compassion or regret or even like bad feeling about it. Like that someone has lost their child makes you feel a little bad, even if you have nothing to do with it. Like if I just met you and you told me you lost your child, I'd feel a little bit bad about that. You know, I have nothing to do with it, but I'd feel a little bit bad about it. You know, I feel a little sorry. I wouldn't know what to do. But in some ways, and because there is nothing for me to do, of course, there's nothing for me to do to make it feel better, so I wouldn't know how to act. In some ways, but I'd feel something about it. It would cause me to feel something. It would cause me to feel something. If I just met you and you told me you lost your kid, it would cause me to feel something. And it seems like even after as much time as he's had, he feels nothing. And that's hard to contemplate. That's hard to contemplate. Maybe it's just like, maybe I'm not imaginative enough of my own capacity for evil, but I'm having a difficult time fully contemplating what I'm seeing. And you know, I also remember sometimes this line from The West Wing when they were debating whether or not to assassinate a foreign leader. And he said, Leo McGarry, when he was talking to Bartlett, was saying, you know, he's killed people before. He'll kill again, so we need to end him. The village idiot comes to that conclusion before the Nobel laureate. In some ways, that's true. In some ways, it's true. The simpler answer here seems like the correct one. You know, it's one of those times when I guess it's also one of those times when logic has to question its own value. And maybe logic and reason is not the right thing for the moment. Because all I can think of is the visceral. And the visceral might be correct. The primal. It's like he is a threat and he has to be ended. And it's no more complicated than that. Maybe it shouldn't be any more complicated than that. But that's sort of my dominant feeling today, is visceral, primal, instinctive. He's a threat and he needs to be ended. And the fact that he's going to jail for the rest of his life and will look at a cold, cold cell jail room works for me. So, at least today, I'm willing to surrender my prefrontal cortex completely. I don't need any of that prefrontal cortex because that's where reason lies. I don't need any of that bullshit. My brainstem will be just fine on its own and deal with the threat. So, yeah. Those are my thoughts so far. I look at him, and I see an emptiness I do not completely understand. So, yeah. I appreciate the super chats. Let me read them real quick.
All right, we are
D Soul
back
gave
on
$4.99 to say
the
Kurt
record.
gets a hug. Really?
The state
Thank
may
you.
continue.
A captain said $1.99. Is there anyone to speak for him? My understanding is he has 9 people speaking for him today or tomorrow, but we won't hear from them until after the victims. K Bean says, Kurtz, for helping us through the dark journey. Your insight and assessment is outstanding. Thank you. Mara Loca gave $10 to say thank you for covering this part of the trial. Their victims and survivors deserve their attention, also prayers and hearts. Thank you. Fred is a member for 3 months. Bo Johan, constantly confused, gave $50. Thank you, Kurt. This is incredibly hard. Fred, $4.99 says, I get psychotic group evil, not individual evil.
I'm victim
Fair enough.
LLO, and on November 21st, 2021, me and my
Oh, good, it's a
family's life
kid.
changed forever. My brother and I were headed to parade. We've been scared of parades not letting us feel safe and comfortable, or
Buckle
even
in,
being able
people.
to run out into the road to fetch candy. For example, when I went to the Arrowhead Parade, all my friends were asking me why I didn't want to go out into the road to get candy, and I said, because of the Waukesha Parade. And I was mad because if the parade incident did not happen, I'd be able to go onto the road to enjoy something as simple as a parade. When I got to the parade with my friends, I constantly remember to not go onto the road, to be better safe than sorry. It is the last thing I want to happen again. How could you do this? Think of your kids. Would you do this to them? I'm just a child with a lifetime left to live. I'm also here for my younger brother, victim KKK. When he was hit by the front of the car, he was traumatized forever. I feel his fear. I feel his pain, because when I was hit, I broke out into tears too. On the way to the hospital, we had to lay our head down on the floor because we heard there was a shooter. My fingers, my whole body was paralyzed in fear and fright. When we made it to the hospital, I was terrified because I thought I broke my fingers. And when they asked me what happened, I was too busy crying that I couldn't speak. I still think about this event to this day. The day after the parade, I couldn't even go to school because of what he did. All my friends were worried about me, texting me, asking if I was even alive. Sometimes I even think of all the others that were hit and how they were in the hospital for longer than me, and how their parents were probably praying that their kids would be okay, and that this would be a once-in-a-lifetime happening. I think this should have never happened to us. The day I went back to school, everyone was asking me a million questions every time I was alone. Everyone was babying me, acting like one of my family members was killed. What makes it worse is that almost a year ago my dog died, and I have lived with it my whole life, so I was extra sad and upset. At that moment, I realized that our family had to find justice against the man who hit too many people and caused a nightmare on November 21st, 2021. I ask for this pain to never be caused again. Thank you.
And I've been asked to read a statement by victim KKK. When I got hit by the car that day, it hurt a lot. I got hit on my right leg, and it still kind of hurts now and then. That hit changed my life, and it still scares me sometimes when I think about it. I also feel bad for the families who lost someone and everyone who died and was in the parade. And then he drew a picture of a SUV, and it says, "Car that hit me," and there's a little figure and candy bucket and bottle and me. So they handed that to me on behalf of victim KKK.
Okay, then.
Your Honor, we need to take a
Break for a second, please. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
It's important.
All right, thank you. I'll do that.
I don't know what's happening exactly. Yeah, Darryl, you and I are both confused right now. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Okay, the kid drew a picture of him being hit by the SUV. That's one way to do a victim impact statement. Draw a picture of it. Holy shit, dude. Wow. He drew a picture. I don't know what's going on in the courthouse. Yeah, all right, well, talk for a little bit more, I suppose, while we're waiting. That hits hard. A kid's drawing of them being hit by the SUV. That hits hard. That's rough. Statement from the kid. Then we have this statement from the two statements from kids. HV says he realized the court doesn't have subject matter jurisdiction. Well, thanks for getting me to laugh. I appreciate that. Kid needs to pick me up. Yeah, it was the lead prosecutor that said they needed a break, but they just had a break, so I'm not sure why. So I was confused as to what was going on. It seemed like something was happening, and I couldn't quite figure it out. Thank you, Crystal, for becoming an uncivilian, hitting that join button. Be like Crystal, hit the join button, or click the link in the description of the channel. All right, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. And we're back. All right. Not interested, said, reminds me of my own drawings and hits home hard. But Darryl Brooke looks unaffected, bored. Yeah. Imagine drawing a red SUV running down people for catharsis. Yeah. Bostonian Bob Boho says, so sad, your gem. Thanks for your channel and insight. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. I feel like having the kids give statements is using them in some way and unnecessary. Well, the kids are victims too. They have rights too. And, you know, the kids have rights. Kids have rights too, right? They're victims. If they want to give a statement, then, you know, give a statement. That's what I think. EDB is upset and Chad's too busy to read. I can imagine this is hitting Emily D. Baker hard. I hope she's doing okay. She's a good person. You know, if you're a good person, it's going to hurt you. It's going to cause you a little bit of pain inside. One would imagine. It's probably a decent, that's probably a decent litmus test for, are you on some level a decent person? Does this cause you to feel things? Are those things in some degree unpleasant? Then maybe you're a good person. That's not a bad litmus test as far as things go. Emily D. Baker is a good person. And of course, she's also a mother, which I imagine might also cause her to have some impact there as well, because she might be able to imagine it more from that angle than I could, because I'm not a father. And so, you know, yeah. You know. And then we got Darryl Brooks over here laughing, rolling his eyes. He's a monster. He's a monster and we have to end him. No compassion for monsters. Since a couple people asked me, and I'm not sure if I've ever said it out loud or not, my understanding is Darryl Brooks has 9 people that are going to offer remarks on his behalf. That was the last number I saw. He said 20 in the courtroom. Well, my understanding is he turned in 9 names. Those 9 names include his mother and grandmother, is my understanding. I don't know who the other people on the list are. We will not hear from any of those people until the victims speak. So maybe those people will speak tomorrow or they'll speak later today. I'm not exactly sure. The court had originally, or at least when they had said it orally like 2 weeks ago, they said that they were planning on doing the sentencing on the 15th and 16th. I don't know if that's still the plan or not. Maybe it is. So maybe we'll hear from these people today, and then we'll hear from Darryl Brooks, because he has an opportunity to address the court. Oh, help us God. And the defense witnesses tomorrow, and then sentence tomorrow. And if that happens, we will absolutely cover that tomorrow too. So I don't know if that's still the plan or not, or if they're just going to try to do it all today, which would be what my inclination was. Let's just do it. Let's just do it as a long day, and I don't care if we're here at 9 p.m. Let's just get it done. That would be my preference, but I don't know what the court has planned. So, yeah, he had said 20 people. He had said 20 people plus. He said, I need 20 people to come. But apparently his mother and grandmother are going to come speak for him, and then some other people. I don't know if any of those people are going to come. Right? Will his mother come? I don't know. His mother didn't come to testify for him at the trial. If I want her here, she'll be here. She didn't come. The judge says she wants to get through it all today if possible. Well, God bless her. I hope she does. I hope we do get it through all today, and we sentence him today, and we can never hear from him ever again. I hope Milwaukee drops the charges for the witness intimidation. Because in case you guys forgot, he at least, well, last I checked, I don't know if that's changed, but last I checked, he was currently He was planning to be on trial for witness intimidation in Milwaukee. But I'm kind of hoping, was it Milwaukee? Somewhere. Anyways, I'm kind of hoping that they'll drop it because, you know, he's already going to jail for 6 consecutive life sentences, plus about 800 years. So I don't know if that's still happening or not. And I'd really like to not hear from Darryl Brooks anymore ever again. What can they say? I don't know. Nothing that'll help very much. Anna says, when I lost my little boys at the mall for less than a minute, I was screaming and panic struck. I can't imagine not being able to find my kids on parade. My boys were hiding. Oof. Oof. That moment of absolute fear and panic. Been there. Been there. Oof. Judge said she wanted to take the 9 and do sentencing tomorrow either way. Okay, well, so be it. We'll cover it either way. We'll see what happens. Who was better at representing themselves, Darryl Brooks or Ronnie O'Neill? Ronnie O'Neill was better. It'd be hard to be much worse. Judge was wiping away tears? Yeah. Will I still be covering Vallow Daybell? Perhaps, but that isn't going to happen anytime in the near future. Vallow, excuse me. Excuse me. Vallow has been adjudicated mentally incompetent to stand trial again. And Daybell has had his trial delayed as well. So we are nowhere close to that happening at any time in the near future. So the next big trial that will happen, and we'll cover other trials before then, is the Murdaugh trial, hopefully. I think that's still supposed to happen in January. But the Vallow Daybell trial is, you know, fall 2023 at this point. So we'll see. Is there any appeal that's possible? No. No. I don't see any possibilities for Darryl Brooks on appeal. Ronnie O'Neill is twice as good as he only got 3 life sentences. Well, there's that. That's a fair point. I agree, Wise Angel. The judge has been very astute in preventing Brooks from having appeal. She's gone out of her way to give him every possible courtesy. The state even went out of their way. With like, well, maybe we'll give him a chance to give it close. See how it goes. You know, they went way out of their way to make sure that everything was preserved. I don't see any grounds of appeal. The judge went through I rewatched where the judge went through the decision to have him represent himself and seemed completely proper, and I didn't see anything during the trial. That's a problem. So unless you can see some sort of massive problem during trial, like a Brady violation or something, but you know, unless something happened before trial somewhere, I don't see any grounds for appeal. I don't see the Court of Appeals particularly looking to find ways to give him an appeal. Yeah. Atchie, he is entitled to a public defender for his appeal if he wants one. That being said, the public defender can file what's called an Allen brief, which we discussed on our channel. Because a lawyer, of course, has twin duties. A lawyer has twin duties. They have a duty to their client and they have a duty to the court. Now, pretty much all the time, those don't conflict. There's very few times when they conflict. But this is potentially one of them, right? It's like, okay, I as a lawyer have a duty to the court. My duties to the court include such things as to not make completely frivolous arguments, for example. Not waste everyone's time. Stop wasting people's time. Stop it, right? So if you're a private lawyer, of course, this doesn't apply because you can just like not be a private lawyer for him. But if you're a public lawyer, right, if you're appointed or appointed otherwise, because you don't necessarily have to be a public lawyer to be appointed, although that would be more common, but stranger things have happened. But if you're an appointed lawyer, let's put it that way. If you're an appointed lawyer and you're given this appeal and you're like, well, I have to zealously represent my client. That's my principal duty. But also, I can't raise any frivolous arguments. So how do I resolve this issue? What you do is you file what's called an Allen brief. And basically what you do in so many words is you say, well, I have no hope. And then they give the client the opportunity to file their own brief, which I'm sure will be really good after your own lawyer just basically said there's nothing there. And so, yeah. Or no, not Allen. It's called a, hold on. Anders brief. Sorry, not Allen. It's called an Anders brief. Apologies. We discussed it on my channel recently. So there are options. I'm not sure exactly what's going on right now. So I just have to vamp a little while I'm waiting. It's not too early for a morning beer though. Yeah, allergies are annoying. You think it gets appealed big enough to be a landmark case? I don't think there's much chance of that. All right. How far can one appeal? Well, you get one appeal as a matter of right. So he gets one appeal as a matter of right to the Intermediate Court of Appeals. And then the Supreme Court can take, state Supreme Court can take the case or not. And then he can try habeas attacks in federal court, which I imagine will also go very, very poorly. But he is in the Sixth Circuit, isn't he? Hold on. I need a map. He's in Wisconsin, right? Okay, Wisconsin's in the Seventh Circuit. Okay. All right. So, no, not so much on the habeas, thank God. Am I okay? I'm having some allergy issues, as you can tell. How large a fee would I charge for the appeal? I can't think of any grounds to appeal. I'm not sure what I would write. I need a lot. I need a lot. I'm gonna have to like nitpick. The only way I can appeal this is to nitpick, and none of it's gonna matter. But it's all I can think to do. But I'm gonna need to. I'll need to like to write this appeal. I need to review the entire record. The magical record that Brooks keeps talking about. It is a thing that exists, and I need to review the every record, every piece of evidence. I need to sit down for like 3 weeks solid just reading. So yeah, I mean, and I'm not sure what I would be able to do. All I could do probably was nitpick. I guess I could attack the. I suppose I would attack his waiver of his rights to a lawyer that he didn't understand, and the judge should have done it. And it was quote some law dealing with how the right to self-defense is not absolute, or the right to represent yourself is not absolute, and how the judge may be erred in that, and try to argue for some sort of clear error analysis. I mean, maybe I could try something along those lines. No subject matter jurisdiction. I don't think subject matter jurisdiction is going to be the winner argument. I really don't. So that would be like the best I can see right now is to attack his waiver of counsel. Especially if I can point to anything prior to that point that showed that he was going to be unduly disruptive and unduly, like I can use some case law that basically I can try to use the case law that allows judges to not allow defendants to represent themselves as a sword instead of as a shield. So there have been times where judges have not allowed defendants to represent themselves. There's case law out there that shields that decision. And then I can try to take that shield and try to convert it into a sword and be like, okay, you had to do this and you didn't. That's all I can think to do. That's all I can think to do on appeal. Maybe attack that the judge didn't do enough with respect to his willingness to testify for himself. Judge should have done more there. Try attack that. What else can I use? If his defense lawyers didn't turn over their complete files to him, that's the kind of thing I got. That's the kind of thing I got. I'm going to need about... I'm going to need some serious cash. I'm going to need about... Well, I'll start the bidding at $100,000 and we'll work from there. El Foster says, just join the stream late. That's fine. Just wanted to thank you for covering. It feels like a heavy day with impact. We all need some hugs. An appeal would yield another trial at best, right? Yeah. Which would probably be a loser too. Even Super Perry Mason couldn't. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, well, Yeah, the best possible scenario for a defense team for Brooks, because you have him on the act. I mean, yeah, you have him on the act, so all you can do is attack mental state. So your best option as a defense lawyer is either to plead insanity, which is really, really hard. And not necessarily a good outcome because you get sent to a mental hospital, and that can be as bad or even worse than prison. So I'm not sure that's necessarily a win, but okay. So you could try that. Or your other scenario that you could try is attacking the intent element of the intentional homicides. That's potentially winnable. That's potentially winnable if you tried really, really hard. But then your best outcome, if you can attack the intent elements, is like, even if somehow you win on all 6 murder counts, which is asking a lot, you're still looking at like 800 years consecutive. And then I guess you argue for concurrent rather than consecutive and hope that he gets out in like 40 years. And maybe that's the best scenario for a defense lawyer here. It's like when your win is when your win is, okay, maybe he only goes to jail for 30 years instead of forever. You know, that's about as good as it gets. And to be able to get there is going to be a little bit difficult. Yeah, you still hit and run. Yeah, you still have the other, what was it? 68 charges or something. Yeah, there's problems. Lead political imprisonment? No. Claim he's bipolar? Yeah, you can try that. You can try that. You can either try that as a not guilty by reason of insanity, or you can soft pedal it into the intent element. That's really all you got to work with. Apparently there was nothing surprises me. There was a threat called into the courtroom. Threats were called in and they had to clear the courtroom. Okay. Fox 6 is reporting on it. Let me see if I can find some coverage on it. Fox News 6 is covering it. Let's take a look. No, Fox News 6 is just displaying the same feed as everyone else, so they're not covering it on their channel. Let's take a look at Fox 9 in Milwaukee. See if they've got anything. No. Yeah, it doesn't look like anyone's talking about it on YouTube, at least. Thank you, Andrew, for becoming an uncivilian. Strider says, thank you for the coverage. Your sane and acerbic takes are much needed. Can't do super chat, so did the locals route. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We also accept donations from Streamlabs. So if you like, you can use that QR code to donate, or check out the merchandise and stuff like that. People were tagging Emily D. Baker. All right, let me take a look at Twitter and see if Twitter can offer any help over here. I could pop over with Legal Bites for a while and chat with her. Not the worst idea I've ever had. Might do that just to, like, while we're in between, just hijack stream snipe Legal Bites and go on with her. I might do that. Yeah. Can you do that thing where we stay here but you go? Oh yeah. I have plans. I can do all kinds of I can do things. Yeah. I have options. Let's see. Okay, add screen. All right. Let's see. Yep.
And just imagine going there and some idiot decides that day that they're going to do this. And that's another thing I got to say, you know, these families have great restraint, because I would have been, I'll give a victim input. As soon as I see that guy there, I don't know if they're going to hold me back. You're going to have the officers up and they don't went crazy up in here and just trying to kill the guy, right? That's just, it's, I don't know how you'd be able to hold me back from doing something like that. So.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, this is probably why there has been some kind of a threat called in to the courthouse. I don't know. Yeah, I'm a little confused about for what purpose somebody would be doing that. I mean, other than
it's trolls.
You know.
Those are trolls.
You think so?
Yeah, of course they do things like
that. Just trying to disrupt the proceeding.
After 9/11, they were doing that because calling them, you know, threats soul, and then, you know, it's people they see stupid comedy and tragedies like this, and I don't know why, you know, it's probably some troll.
Yeah,
it's insane. Yeah. But, you know, hopefully, you know, again, I'm not watching it anymore. So I was happy when I was like, oh, let me see what Legal Bites is doing. I was like, all right, sad good. Part is they're on a break, so I can step in and say something. But somebody like this guy, it's unbelievable. What's his name? Brooks. And this guy has no remorse. This guy has no. He just somebody like this guy. Is opportunity. Brooks, and this guy has no remorse. You know, he's a great case for why we need the death penalty. The only thing he sees, because I don't think there's any doubt what he did, why he did it. But now we're going to be paying $30,000 a year to keep him safe and to keep him fed in prison while
give him constitutional rights.
He's 30. Don't get me wrong, I'm for all that. But after it's over, it's like now I don't think there's any doubt this guy did this because he wanted to harm these people.
Yeah. And that I mean, the likelihood of his contrition and his, at some point down the road, understanding the full impact of his actions and feeling some kind of human type remorse, the likelihood of that just feels so slim to none. So it's like it seems like the reason to not have the death penalty, right, is for the possibility of somebody, sitting with the things that they have done for the rest of their life and having nothing but time to think about it, and really giving them an opportunity to find that contrition to a certain extent. But in a case like this,
I just find him so empty inside. There's nothing to. I was remarking on this on my own channel. His behavior in court today, in some ways, is more horrifying to me than his original act, because he's had so much time to reflect upon it, so much time to have some sort of feeling about it, and he shows no compassion, no empathy, no contrition, no sadness, no feeling. It's like, if I met someone for the first time and they told me their kid had died, I'd feel something about that. But he doesn't seem to feel anything about that, even though he is responsible for this. His lack of emotion, I don't know what to say other than he's a monster and he needs to be ended. And I'm very glad that he's going to go to prison forever.
Yeah. I think you're right, Kurt. I think that there's something to that even if in the heat of the moment you did something that is as horrible and horrifying as this, when confronted with the people who you have harmed, it's like we are all watching this through a screen, right? Like we've talked about this before with previous trials that like Natalie Wisco, the first time I had her on my channel, and we were talking about the Rittenhouse trial and talking about the experience of being in the room during some of the testimony that was particularly heart-wrenching and very difficult to sit in and watch. I remember being struck by the fact that I was like so thankful about the fact that we were able to watch this on a screen, right? Like we were able to see it for ourselves. And then being struck by my conversation with her where she said, like, you could hear a pin drop. You could hear suddenly the fan in the room that, this is a packed courtroom. And it was that silent because everyone was holding their breath collectively. Like it's things like that is a certain feeling that you have in a courtroom when you are there in person. So, when you have a defendant who then is required to sit and face the people who you have harmed, it is hard not to feel some emotional impact from them talking about their impact, right? Talking about what they have had to live with because of your actions. And maybe these are just like very strong defense mechanisms that he has decided that he just, he wants to be right. He desperately wants to be right, and so maybe these are just in this particular moment, but it just feels so much more wrong because, like you said, Kurt, he's had that time to think about all of it, right? Like you can even say when he's in the fight for his life during the trial, it's different than now, right? Because that fight is over and he lost. And now, like as lawyers, we can even look at it and say, you don't necessarily want the criminal defendant to be apologizing during the trial because that looks like an admission of guilt. As soon as the trial's over, that's done and over with. Let them be human and let them apologize for everything that they have done. And usually that's actually quite appropriate because that it shows their humanity, it shows their contrition on at least some level. But there's absolutely nothing, that there's just a complete void where his heart should be from what it looks like. It's just it's horrible. It's horrible.
Well,
I think as I was also saying on my channel that if you follow the idea of the shadow, and put the integration of the shadow, that there's darkness that lies in the heart of every human being. We're all capable of evil from time to time, and so I think what you said at the very start of your comment was right. You know, it's easier to look into myself and find some part of myself that to some degree understands the original act, because it could be fight or flight, it could be panic, it could be anger. And it's like, okay, it's like there's darkness that lies in the soul of every man. But the fact that what his behavior to do is more than that. It's just a pit of emptiness. It's like a black hole. And I tell you what, I'd like to be as self-aware as any person could try to be. I'm having a real hard time looking inside myself and finding enough darkness in my soul to be like at this point where I would feel nothing and have no compassion, no empathy. It's just, he's a monster and needs to be ended. And that's sort of my very visceral response at the end of the whole thing.
Yeah, it's weird because I always think these victim impacts, just so everybody understands too, these victim impact statements, there are a couple of questions that kept popping up. Number one, like, oh, how come people who weren't injured or whose kids weren't killed, how come they're making victim impact statements? Well, just so everybody understands, just because you weren't injured or killed doesn't mean a crime wasn't committed. There's something called assault fear. Somebody driving a car with you with intent to harm you, and you're scared and move out of the way, and people are traumatized. That's what's called that's actually a felony assault, right? Because you're doing it with the weapon. So you don't have to actually be injured to be a victim of a crime in this particular instance. So that's why a lot of those people who are giving impact statements who weren't physically injured but have those emotional scars are able to do that because they were assaulted by Brooks. And then the second thing is that about the victim impact statements themselves. Well, under most state constitutions, victims, if you're convicted, victims have a right to essentially confront the person who's been convicted of the crime and tell them how their crime affected them before sentencing. So this is in Wisconsin, this is under law, they have the right to do this. So, for him, for him, so this is like, well, sentence me to life, right? Because we all know he's getting life. But this is a way to allow the victim some closure to say, you're a bad person, you did this. And this just, it's not going to change. It may not change anything, but what it does is at least allows you to let this person know and the world know how this person harmed you. And with that, you could start the healing process moving forward.
Yeah. And if you think about it too, the state, the prosecution represents the state, right? It represents the community. So this is the opportunity of the community to actually speak, on an individual basis, to talk about the actual impact of these actions also. So it sort of helps to inform the representatives of that community what has actually happened as far as the harm is concerned.
Well, listen, guys, unfortunately I have to, because I have a shooting schedule I have to get to. But I will definitely see you guys later. I'm not going to watch any of this. I just want to hear he's got years and years in prison, which I'm expecting.
Hundreds of years.
I hope he gets to general population. We want general pop. We don't want any of this confinement and, solitary. We don't want that. We want general pop, because what's going to happen is that he's going to general population with all those skinheads and, who's thinking, oh my God, he's killed all these white kids. And you got all those black people in there. He killed all these black people. Then you have all these people, it's Christmas, and this guy's out there killing kids. So I don't think he survives general population. I think he's got a lot of enemies just going in, just going into it. So general population, I think, would be the best situation, because let the animals take care of each other. But other than that, this guy deserves everything he gets. Don't feel sorry for him. And hopefully, this will be over. And somebody said revenge fantasies. No, it's not revenge for me. It's because this guy's I don't want to say it because I don't want you demonetized. This guy's a disaster. And just like what Kurt said, he shouldn't be breathing air anymore. But unfortunately, in Wisconsin, they allow you to breathe air. So
Yeah. And MacMedic892 says Nate needs to say, "This is MAGA country."
Oh,
of
MAGA
course, a reference,
country.
reference to the Jussie Smollett trial. So thanks so much for I wanted to make sure to show you that before you
If this
you head
really
out.
were
Well, thanks so
MAGA
much,
country,
Nate.
justice would be a lot swifter and more direct.
Oh yeah, it would be over. If this was Texas, we'd be having a whole different conversation, right?
Yeah,
you'd have a whole different conversation. Later, guys.
Probably.
Right.
All right, see you, Nate. So let me give some updates here. Thanks, Sandra Ramirez, for noting that Rob Law and Lumber he had some updates on Twitter. Let me zoom in here because this is tiny.
Yeah, someone called in a threat.
Yeah, so the courtroom cleared after calls were placed to dispatch this morning. Some kind of threats, according to the sheriff's department, but an officer tells me we are safe to continue business. We can expect a press release. They brought this guy into the building. I don't know if they mean this officer. Oh, it's snowing there too. Sorry, that's a random thought. Some other notes from the courtroom. It's not packed. They've organized victims into 4 groups. Each group, about a dozen or so, are present at once in courtroom. The rest are waiting in a special room to watch the hearing. Yeah, that's what they said at the beginning of this hearing. Breaking, we just spotted several armed deputies at the doors of the courthouse. My guess is they probably will be remaining there for the duration. So, okay. So I think that's probably it as far as the updates are concerned. Let's see if there's anything else when I refresh from this screen here. Okay, so 2 minutes ago, the sheriff is heading over to give an update. So I guess we will be getting some kind of a press release soon. I would anticipate that Court TV is probably going to be showing that. I don't know why they wouldn't. This has just been such a. I did not have this on my bingo card for this hearing. I had subject matter jurisdiction. I had grounds. I had basically everything else that we've experienced so far. I did not have someone called a threat into the courthouse on there. I also see another tweet that Waukesha Sheriff confirms a threat was made anonymously regarding courthouse safety. They have stepped up security presence and trying to track down who made the threat. This is from Hillary Mintz, a journalist, that says, Inspector I spoke with would not confirm any other details. Okay. Wow. Crazy. Let me get some more of these saved chats and super chats. Beyruins, thanks so much for your super chat. Says, beware that when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster. For when you gaze long into the abyss gazes also into
Damn straight.
you. Very wise words.
Many people become monsters by trying to fight monsters. Yeah.
Agreed. So, and that's why, even where it's tough and even where sometimes it's a bit of an unpopular thing to do, it's still important to preserve due process for the unpopular people. Even where we all know basically deep down that someone has done something wrong, we have to make sure that we are crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's in our justice system, because that abyss will gaze right back into you when it is least convenient. Sentient Dreamer, thanks so much for your super chat. Says DB thinks he had zero responsibility because he didn't mean to do anything. They were in the way. This happened to him too, in his sick mind and raging. Yeah, no, that seems to be basically the logic that he has. But
even if you really believe that, the next step of having no compassion, empathy for the fact that someone lost their child is like another step beyond. Like I can somehow even get this far in my mind. It's like, it's not really my fault. I was in a rage. I was angry. I was in the throes of my passions, for lack of a better description, and therefore perpetrated this evil. And therefore I shouldn't be responsible because it wasn't really me in some sense acting. I can even get this far. Where I have trouble getting to is even after all this time and hearing from these people and hearing their statements and seeing the kids drawing, for God's sake, he still has apparently no space for empathy or compassion. It's like, geez, I feel bad for them that their child is dead. It's like, wow, that's a lot of darkness, man.
Yeah. Yeah. The rolling the eyes, the laughing, the reading, not even reading, right? Because it's like, it's so obvious when he picks up the Bible and he opens it to a random page, and then he kind of takes a chunk of pages and moves them over and then looks at that page. Like, he's not looking for anything in particular to be reading, right?
No.
To be giving him guidance. That's usually somebody who is using
It's a prop.
It's a prop. Exactly. It's a prop. It's a very obvious prop. And it's one to and it's just, as a Christian, personally, it feels particularly offensive because he is using a text that people turn to for guidance in very dark times, to help them to be better people. That's usually the purpose for which someone even has a Bible in their hands. Ideally, not in every case, of course. Like, we can talk about all kinds of examples of hypocritical people, right? But the fact that he is using that as this prop to show disrespect to these people, to show that he's not paying attention to what they're saying, is just like, it's another layer of outrage on top of everything.
He was laughing behind the mask, Alita.
I know.
He was laughing. I did not have laughing on my bingo card of emotions.
No, I mean, although he was doing that throughout the trial as well. So during witness testimony and whatnot. So I suppose we shouldn't be too surprised in this instance that he would also be doing it here. As horrible as it sounds to say that like we have gotten to a point with this trial and with this individual that, like, we should almost feel like we should expect some of this awful behavior. It's just awful. It's awful. Alex Martin, thanks for your super chat, says this threat call feels like the Reddit juror post. Yeah, it could be. It could be somebody who's just trying to look for attention as well, in a very Darryl Brooks kind of way.
Can we bring back the stocks? That was good punishment. Can we bring back the stocks? We'll line them up and down Main Street, and I'll throw tomatoes at these people. I think that would go a long way to helping. Is that too much?
It definitely feels very satisfying, right? Doesn't it? Oh, man. I've got some more questions here that we can go through. Hawkwind, thank you. You're very kind. Given the trial, is it really surprising that something would happen like this? I mean, we were just talking about this, right? Like it's a horrible thing to think that we should be conditioned to, like, expect this from an individual at this point. But I guess it's disappointing that to feel like we do expect something like this from someone.
Yeah.
Tin Lee, Legal Bites, would you plan to be on Rob's next Friday Night Frenzy? I've been on one of them. The problem for me is my time zone. It's a really tough time zone for me. This Friday, I'm not sure if I'll be able to. I definitely will try. I definitely want to on another one soon, because I know he has so much fun on those streams. And he's my friend, right? I like to support my friends. Kurt, it's been a while since I've been on your channel too.
You're welcome to come over.
By the way, thank you. Did you end up doing the Supreme Court oral argument yesterday?
I have not done it yet for the Native American case.
Oh, okay.
It could be fun.
Okay, we need to talk offline about doing it, because I'd be interested too. I just need to have the right time, because like I said, my time zone sucks. Especially with the time change, it's like it makes it even worse for this half of the year. But yeah, no, I definitely want to, for sure, because I know we've had. Is that on your computer?
It might well be. Hold on.
I'll dismiss it on my phone, and it like continues to play through my computer, and I'm like, no, like I intentionally dismissed that. That is so freaking frustrating. So yeah.
I'm not even sure where it was coming from right now.
Oh man.
I'm a professional.
I know. I say this all the time. anytime I get, I don't know. I feel like I bumble things every now and then. And it's always nice to just be like, I'm a professional. This is what I do. And just so you guys know, watching right now, I just checked Law and Crime, the stream, and there's nothing yet showing for on that stream. And I'm also looking to see. Oh, okay. So Chanley Shaw Painter also just tweeted. I'll pull this up. She said, extra security. There are now at least 2 officers appearing to be SWAT with tactical gear inside the Darryl Brooks courtroom. There is also beefed up security posted around the courthouse. Sources confirmed law enforcement received threats, causing an abrupt pause. So, okay. Well, all right. I'm going to retweet that.
Is it someone said that it was coming from the screen from Law and Crime? Is it possible that Law and Crime, because I still have their feed up, and it would play? It would play for me.
No, I have their feed up also, and I would have. So I probably would have heard it.
Okay, well,
extra.
All right. I'm trying to figure out where it came from so it won't happen again. At the moment, I'm merciless to random phone noises. Damn it.
Yeah. Well, sorry. At least I don't think it had anything to do with Law and Crime, because yeah, I have it up also. And it's just their like thumbnail for it. So I don't think there should be any kind of sound coming from it. All right, so it seems like that's the latest is Chanley Shaw Painter's tweet. Wait, what?
It was Law and Crime. Oh, thank God. People on my feed are telling me it was Law and Crime and not me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay, that would explain a lot, because the way I have it set up, their audio would bleed over. It wouldn't bleed over for you on your stream, but it would bleed over on my stream because the way I have it set up.
I'm not sharing that screen right now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm doing this. I'm doing this the unofficial way. So my audio is a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if this is true, but someone says Breaking Darryl Brooks has been shot at the sentencing here. I don't know that that's true. I want to see some update on that, like, or some confirmation. I don't know who this individual is or what kind of information they would have. Let's refresh. Okay. Yeah, I don't see anything else on this one. Okay. So yeah, I wouldn't run with that. Sandra Ramirez, thanks so much for your generous super chat. Says, I don't know why I thought he'd act differently, but I was hoping for a grain of humanity. But when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way, right? Like I was hoping that he would have some level of humanity. And I do see in the chat people are saying ignore Joseph Morris because he's not reliable. Yeah, that's why, like, when I first saw that and I saw that no one else, like, he was the only person saying something, I probably shouldn't have even mentioned it, but
Yeah.
I mean, because also, like, realistically, he's in the courtroom, right? So, like, someone would have to get through the metal detector. I assume they have metal detectors. Every courthouse these days has metal detectors, right? And they would have to get through all kinds of law enforcement. We already know that there are people that are guarding the doors to the courthouse at this point also. So, like, how would they be able to get through all of that and then shoot him in the courtroom? That doesn't seem plausible. But yeah, yeah, Sandra, thank you so much for the super chat. Minsky says, will this become an issue since trials are now on camera? I think, think about it this way. Trials have been on camera for like 30 years now. Like the first trial to really be televised was, I think, the Jeffrey Dahmer trial, and that was in 1992. So it's actually been 30 years now at this point. Wait, right? Yeah, 30 years. Lawyer math. I can do math, right? So it's there have been plenty of cases that have been televised that have not had something like this happening. So I'm personally not terribly alarmed about this becoming a trend. Maybe that's me being naive and and whatnot, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Kurt?
No, I don't see any issues here. I mean, obviously the trial itself is done. The jury's already reached its verdict. So, we're just here for sentencing, and the judge has already written their sentencing memorandum. Sure. So I don't see anything at this point impacting any element of the trial. Literally anything could happen, and it would not impact the trial at this point.
Yeah. Sarah Palmer, I just pulled in. What did I miss? I mean, this was a bit ago when Sarah Palmer came in. So we are at an abrupt pause. If you don't know already by this point, we're at an abrupt pause in the proceedings for today because apparently there was a threat called into the courthouse. We don't know any kind of details about it, but we do know that the police have been have responded very seriously to it. And yeah, so they are coming in, and we should be expecting some kind of a press release at some point on this too. So still refreshing to see if there's any kind of update on this. Oh yeah, Alex Martin, thanks for the super chat. I got this one earlier. Tin Lee says, Legal Bites, can we draw out what his mens rea is?
Sometimes I don't think so.
You mean during the trial? I mean, that was what they needed to show was, I mean, his obviously his culpable mental state was one of the elements that they needed to show. And I think a lot of that was just his pure recklessness. I mean, that can get you to pretty much everywhere that he got. In this particular case, because what they needed to show was that a reasonable person that is paying any kind of attention is going to see that there are barricades, there are police officers who are directing traffic, there are crowds of people, and even if you made a mistake and you drive into a crowd, the moment you hit one person, generally speaking, for most people, that is enough to stop. The fact that he barreled through and sped up, it speaks to his intent and his culpable mental state.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, we were talking about this with my child a little too, like what's the best possible outcome for the defense here? Like, and you know, in sort of going back in time, what was the best possible outcome? Like the best possible outcome, maybe you attack the intent elements of the intentional murder. Maybe you can get that. But like, even if somehow you manage to get acquitted on all 6 murder convictions, I mean, you're still looking at hundreds of years if it's served consecutively. And it's like, okay, well, I would concur. It's like, okay, maybe he'll get out of jail in 30 years instead of like dying there. It's like, there's not a lot of great outcomes in this scenario.
Right. And it's, I mean, and I've heard of other cases where you had someone drive into a crowd, and typically when you hear about a case like that, it is someone who is elderly and they mistook the gas for the brake, for example. You know, that's usually the kind of case that I've heard of. And so that kind of a mistake of fact is the kind of thing that could get in the way of somebody's culpable mental state. If that, you know, mistake is because they were intoxicated, though, like that is a decision that they made, was to get intoxicated and then to get behind the wheel.
Right. Exactly.
So, you know, that's so like, even if he was high out of his mind and had no idea what he was doing, there are several decisions that preceded the driving into the crowd that would hold him responsible for all of that. That would go to the recklessness of his actions. Yeah, I mean, sleepwalking, that's basically the only thing that I could think of where it's like his brain is completely shut down and it's not his fault. You know, or someone else drugged him and he had no idea where he was as he was getting into the car. But these are kind of crazy theories to try to like really stretch to come up with. And obviously none of those were in any way appropriate in this particular case. So yeah. They could have been better arguments, like I said, if he had hit one person and stopped.
That would have helped.
Yeah. Let's see. There's some more. There's another question here. Hawkwind says, with the Sov-Sit element, could it be a group that called in, though generally nonsense? A few hardcore believers in that theory might have made a threat to try to derail this hearing. I don't know. What do you think? I'm not familiar enough with Sov-Sit types to like think whether or not that's a plausible theory.
The Sov-Sit group that apparently he got his material from has already disowned him, so probably not
really?
them.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. How do you know that they disowned him?
Oh, there was an email. Someone sent an email to the group that he got his material from and got an email back from them basically saying, you know, that the chief law is God's law and blah blah blah. So yeah, there was apparently an email exchange by one imprising follower of our respective channels that I read on stream. And then I think also in that same email had said, by emailing us, you are now part of our group and welcome to the fold and so forth, because that apparently is a thing. So yeah.
Oh man. Don Baca says, I had a multiple victim vehicle plowing into pedestrians incident just outside my high rise in Chicago Gold Coast. Unintentional, but still gruesome. I saw it. Yeah, I am so sorry that you witnessed that, because it's like even if you're not someone who was physically harmed by that, if witnessing something like that can also be enough to cause some emotional harm here, right? I mean, whether or not that's actionable is another question, but that is some trauma to witness, and that's the kind of thing that can really keep someone up at night. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Also, BB Malone, thanks so much for becoming a YouTube member, and welcome to Bike Club. I really appreciate your support of the channel, and I would love it if you could make it on Friday to our members exclusive live stream. We do it every Friday, and it's just a casual hangout for other members of Bike Club, whether they are from YouTube memberships, supporters on Locals, or supporters on Patreon. So anyhow, but I appreciate your support, and I look forward to having you in the group. Okay.
Let me stream hop. I'm gonna see if I can pop on someone else's stream during this interlude, and
Sure.
I might be back later.
Okay. All right. See you, Kurt. Thanks for
Talk to
stopping
you later.
in.
All right. Bye bye.
See ya.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna see if I can pop on to Nick's stream because he sent me a link, and while we're doing this, so let's see if we can pop on with Nick Racket the Rackets for a little while. Move some windows around as I try to get the Rackets' attention. Move some windows around as I try to get the Rackets' attention.
Right to travel by any particular means. You have no right to that. And oh my goodness, what's up, Kurt?
Hey, how's it going? It's good to see you.
Pretty good, brother. We're just waiting for the court to actually come back, and I'm reviewing this video about how I'm wrong about sovereign citizens.
Oh, good. One of the many things you're wrong about.
Yes. But you know what I'm not wrong about, Kurt? I am now a Baldo affiliate.
I've heard tell. Loud and proud.
So excited. Oh yeah. You can.
And I want in on the podcast. I want in on the podcast.
Doesn't that sound like a fun show?
It sounds like a lot of fun.
The hard part of it is figuring out exactly how to source the conversation each time, but I don't think that'd be that much trouble.
No.
So
this is the kind of thing I went to law school for. If my Baldo crosses state lines, is there a federal case? Now I would note that there's I believe
from a potato gun.
There is a case in both states because part of the requisite act, as long as any element occurred in any of the requisite states, both states typically have jurisdiction. So if you do this on four corners, that means 4 different states have jurisdiction over you. I'm not sure about the feds, but we can get into that too.
Four Corners is actually federal tribal land, so we do have a weird issue at
Four
Corners.
That too. Okay, fun times.
Now, what about this though? You shoot your Baldo across state lines in an assaultive manner, but someone throws money back at you as revenge. Is it then interstate commerce?
Well, everything's interstate commerce. You know that.
Yeah. But anyway, so here let's take a look at this thing here. I've only done 40 seconds. Let's go back to the beginning so you can join me on this. Here we go. This is what I'm wrong about sovereign citizens.
Okay.
So I'm just going to try to go over this sovereign citizen nonsense and hopefully add some clarity. But the more I speak, the more confusing it's going to get. So when
I believe that.
Let's start at the top, sort of what sovereign citizens say. One of the easiest things is this driver's license thing. They have the right to travel. Well, that's 100% right. You have the right to travel. You have the privilege of having a driver's license. So the first thing an attorney should be saying when they're talking to one of these sovereign citizens is, have you it's not excluded. There's a wrong way of a legal word. I'm not an attorney. So.
We're not going to start it over, but here's Joe. What's up, Joe?
Yo, how you doing?
Pretty good, brother. We're just
I'm catching up. I'm listening.
Yeah.
I know. Just keep going.
Okay, here we go.
There's a legal way of saying it of gotten rid of your privileges and exercised your rights. If you haven't done that, well, you can't claim sovereign citizenship. one of the other main things of sovereign citizenship.
Wait. I'm sorry. To claim sovereign citizenship, there's a set of rules that you have to follow, and the first is that you you've discarded your privileges but preserved your rights. That's the. Did I hear that right, or am I crazy?
Okay.
Yeah, apparently.
I'm gonna be frank. I've never looked into the whole sovereign citizen thing. I understand conceptually when it makes sense. I never looked into it. You guys, I'm gonna be getting an education from you. I can't imagine that to qualify as a sovereign citizen, you have to first adopt the label vagabond, get your little stick with the thing, and like there's rules that you have to be traveling on your, and that's what I was. What is this guy trying to?
Wait, you have to follow like a rule set that seems antithetical to the whole concept of sovereign citizenry.
See, that's what I would think. I understand sovereign citizen is you're basically saying I reject the government leadership and I'm my own little domain, and my domain is my domain, and I happen to be situated in the middle of the country of the United States of America, but I refuse to adopt that, and I shouldn't be obligated to adopt that. Am I missing anything? Is there more than that beyond that?
I'm a sovereign nation unto myself, Joe. I'm not bound by your constitution, and you have no subject matter or personal in personam or in rem jurisdiction over me or the corporate entity that shares the same name but in all caps that I am.
The corporate entity. Right. Okay.
Oh yeah. So the part of the system is that when you're born, your birth certificate is printed, I guess, in all caps, and they believe that creates a legal fiction of a corporate entity that represents you, that corporate person cannot be sued because that would require corporate personhood, which they don't really recognize or something. I don't know, but that's why they do the whole I don't recognize that name. That's not me. Because it's in all caps.
Has this ever worked in any setting anywhere?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Here we go.
Is if you're in the courtroom, you've already failed. But I'm going to start breaking down all of these ideas of why.
Just real quick, if you're in the courtroom, you've already failed. Well, one, yes, but two, not for the reasons you suspect. Because if you start yelling sovereign citizen nonsense at the arresting officer, you'll end up in the courtroom probably quicker.
People are saying these things and all the convoluted conspiracy theories behind them all, and then you can sort of get a better understanding of how they've managed to smash it all together and come up with these ideas. So one of the other interesting things is, like was brought up in the stream the other day, was about the flag being around, the gold leaf being around the flag, and that's maritime law. It's actually not. What it's actually supposed to be, according to the conspiracy theory, is martial law. So everything that is on daylight savings time and everyone that has that gold.
No, it's actually admiralty.
Wow.
Okay.
I mean, was he talking about noble gold? Because I want to know. I mean, is there, or birch gold? Is there, what type of gold is he talking about?
birchgold.com/knows is where you should go to find out everything you need to know about gold and silver, even incorporating them into your IRA. But here we go.
Really? Tell me more.
Well, you got to go to birchgold.com/knows and click that green button for more information.
Oh, okay.
Birchgold.com?
I will.
/knows. Here we go.
The flag is under martial law. That's why they don't have ministries of war and only ministries of defense now after the Second World War. So they managed to conflate that into the maritime law stuff. The maritime law stuff for the sovereign citizens comes from the CES1KV Trust and the Papal Bull from the Vatican and Rome, because obviously you're born through a birth canal and then you come out into the world, whatever. But in the courtroom, you're in a dock, which is the dry dock, and the captain is the judge on the ship and all that sort of stuff, right? Well, that comes from the Vatican.
Okay, I don't know about being the courtroom is a dry dock for your vaginal canal birth.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but on a ship, I mean, maritime law. Yes, when you're on a ship, the captain is the judge. He acts as judge with authority. Often from he would have acted with the authority of the state if it was a state-run vessel. Sure, that's true.
Where the Pope claimed every soul on the planet, every man, woman, and child, and anyone who didn't have a birth certificate, they sent off the conquistadors to go and murder and massacre everyone that didn't have a birth certificate.
Thank God.
So they're conflating that conspiracy theory into this maritime law thing about you being a lost soul at sea. and then they've mashed that together with like this capital letterization thingy. That comes from another guy who's an attorney allegedly of Bill Clinton, and he was doing these online thingies, maybe 2010ish, something like that, when he was explaining the difference between grammar, parsec, syntax, and adverb, verb, and the difference of capitalizations in stuff. And you could, believe it or not, buy his package online for $200, and he'd explain it all. And he was the one who claimed, was giving the idea of the definition of is in Congress and a whole bunch of other things.
Oh, thank God. This is getting really boring really quickly.
We're back
in court.
Excellent. He looks good in orange.
All right, thank you. Shortly before 10 a.m., there was an abrupt stop to the proceedings when I was asked by the sheriff to meet with him, and I was advised at that time that their communications center had received a threat to the courthouse. As everyone is well aware, it's now 11:14 a.m. The sheriff has assured me that this building is quite safe, very secure were his words, and that he has taken all reasonable measures to secure the courthouse. At this time, I am not going to stop these proceedings. We will continue.
Good for you.
On the sheriff's department and law enforcement.
But look at Darryl.
personnel
Darryl with
to
his
advise
skeptical
if
eye.
anything changes. I apologize for the abrupt disruption previously, but
my leg shaking actually hit my phone and texted the court that there was a bomb. I'm sorry, it wasn't my fault.
When we took
it was my leg shaking that did it.
break, right before that, Jen Dunn had been reading a statement from one of the juvenile victims, and there was a picture that was referenced. I would like to make a request for that picture to be made part of the record.
Thank you, Judge. We had anticipated that as well. We're prepared to display that at this time on the monitor.
And then will that be filed?
Yes, I can file that.
All right, go ahead.
So again, this is the note and drawing by victim KKK.
Aw.
Can you tell me the age of KKK?
8 years old.
Thank you very
Breaks
much.
my heart a little bit, not gonna lie.
With that statement?
Yeah, this is really heartbreaking.
I am completed with victim KKK's statement, and you can now see the drawing that was made by that victim on the bottom of his statement.
Oh, someone made the frogs
Thank you very much.
meme. We'll show it later.
Next, I do have the statement of the mother of victim KKK and LLL to read for the court. I am not sure how or where to begin to try and put into words how November 21st of 2021 has impacted my life or my family's life. That was a night that I pray I could forget, say it has not broken me, say that I am stronger than a single moment, and move beyond as if it never happened. But unfortunately, as much as I try, this is something that haunts me daily. Our lives forever changed that evening. Mr. Brooks took an evening that was supposed to be filled with excitement, love, and holiday spirit and turned it into a real-life nightmare. November 21st of 2021, I witnessed the most horrific event I could ever have imagined leaving my house that evening. My children at the time of the parade were 11, victim LLL, 9, victim KKK, and 6, innocent, full of life, love, compassion, and excitement for the holidays. That evening, Mr. Brooks stripped this from my children, leaving them physically hurt, scared, angry, confused, traumatized, and forever changed with the visions of what happened that night. I saw absolute fear and pain in my children's eyes they should never have had to experience in their entire life. I saw my daughter, victim LLL, lying in the road crying and yelling, "Who would do that?" I saw my son, victim KKK, flipped on his back, crying in pain, not being able to move or feel his legs. I remember knowing we weren't safe and needing to leave, telling my children to run as fast as they could, and
oh, okay.
or back to danger.
There we go.
I remember seeing parents laying on top of their children in fear and trying to protect them the best they could from what was happening. I remember sitting at every stoplight while driving my children to the hospital, trembling to the point the car was shaking. In complete fear, every car pulling up beside me was the person who hit my children. Yes, Mr. Brooks, I remember. I watched my son not be able to sit alone in a room for weeks. I watched my children not be able to sit still without being anxious and fidgeting for months. I watched my children wake up with nightmares to this day. I saw gut-wrenching guilt on my husband's face for feeling like he didn't protect his family. And to this day, I feel anger and hatred more than I realized I ever could for a person I have never even met. But aside from all of that, I am thankful that by some miracle, my family and I walked away that evening. Although I could not attend most of the trial in person, I did view either via Zoom or on TV. I viewed everything from the pre-trial, jury selection, and trial itself, and I am disgusted that a grown man could act the way Mr. Brooks acted during all of this. Mr. Brooks claims he was raised a Christian and his mother raised him better than he was acting at the beginning of the trial. But Mr. Brooks continued to be rude, selfish, and disrespectful, from sleeping during court, endless interruptions and outbursts, rude comments, facial expressions, and lack of remorse for his actions and how he was treating everyone in court, from the prosecutors, victims, witnesses, and judge herself. I never thought Mr. Brooks could make myself feel victimized all over again, but he did. I keep remembering how Mr. Brooks was upset the detective in the investigation asked to speak to one of his children. I asked myself, it's not okay to speak to his child, but it's okay to intentionally hit two of my children and drive away? That's okay? Why my children? Why any children? How could someone do this? How could someone have no compassion for the victims, the families? We deserve answers. Our children deserve answers, true and honest answers. Never once did I see true remorse for anyone but himself or his family during the trial. Mr. Brooks also stated something along the lines of, anyone who knows him or spends enough time with him knows he would never do something like that. But Mr. Brooks, you absolutely did. Mr. Brooks hit my children and so many more people and never once stopped. Not only did he kill, injure, and traumatize so many that night, he decided to victimize everyone again by forcing them to not only testify as to what happened because he felt compelled to plead not guilty, but he also forced these victims and family members, including my husband, to face the monster that did this and answer the questions he felt the need to ask. How can someone face each person on the stand, knowing what was done that night, question them as if they were the ones on trial when all of the victims and witnesses were doing that night were creating memories? Unfortunately, memories were created, but not the memories I planned to have with my children. Instead, the fear I have seeing a maroon SUV driving towards myself or my family is now paralyzing. Seeing a vehicle drive too fast down any street makes me physically sick to my stomach. My children panic at the sight of an emergency vehicle. Seeing people run and yell unexpectedly, even if just for fun, makes my heart drop, and my mind brings me back to the night of the parade, hearing the screams, yells for help, and cries from that night will haunt me until the day I die. Those are the memories I have from the night. The only good that has come from this is Mr. Brooks will never be able to hurt another person outside of prison ever again. The guilty verdict and hopefully life plus sentence will protect anyone that may have been hurt by Mr. Brooks in the future, and that I can be thankful for. Please, on behalf of myself and my family, we ask Mr. Brooks to be sentenced to the fullest extent. Mother of victim KKK and LLL. Next to speak will be victim S.
You know, they just don't hit the same coming from a victim advocate like that.
I don't know. When she's describing the ongoing trauma they deal with, it's not something.
Notes, and I was wondering, it was a little confliction there. Is victim KKK 8 or 9?
It doesn't matter, but 9 now.
Wow. Way to show no remorse.
A written statement read from the mother of victim KKK.
Objection, hearsay.
I apologize. I'm just taking notes.
Just want her to get up and scream, it doesn't fucking matter! Why didn't you ask him while you were hitting him with your car? Piece of garbage.
My name's Kelly Grebo, and I was walking in the Christmas parade with my daughter, Adelia, on the 21st. I'm not one for public speaking, obviously. I'm very nervous.
but I was given a chance to be the voice for my daughter and I. That is what fueled me to stand here today. Now I can only tell you our story, but I believe the tragic events of that day have affected many of us in a similar manner. I can honestly say I have never felt the hatred I do for one person like I do this man. The very man that drove his vehicle into my 9-year-old baby girl who was excitedly walking in the Christmas parade. She was so excited to dress up that day as Cindy Lou Who. We spent weeks figuring out her costume and picking her hairstyle. She was excited to have her hair and makeup done and to help spread holiday cheer, to see her friends and her family that were there to be spectators at the parade that became witnesses to this horrible act themselves. So many lives were changed that day. Although many of us, for the most part, have healed physically, emotionally, many of us have been scarred. I have questioned whether those emotional scars will ever truly go away, remembering the roller coaster of emotions that day. And after being struck myself lying on the ground and seeing the tires pass directly in front of my face and just waiting for the pain to begin, being filled with absolute fear of not knowing where my daughter Adelia was or if she was okay, then running only to find her the way I did, the way so many of us found our loved ones that day, lying helpless on the cold, hard ground. My knees buckled the minute I got to her. Seeing my child that this so-called sorry excuse for a man ran a 3,000-pound SUV into her tiny little body. There are so many times when I close my eyes, I still see my baby girl laying in the street, helpless, not moving, just staring in complete shock, not even recognizing her own grandparents when they came to her side. Seeing that look in her eyes will forever be embedded in my mind. As a parent, we are supposed to be able to protect our children, and that day many of us were reminded of the ugly in this world, that no matter what we do, there will always be monsters like Darryl Brooks that are lurking around corners, just waiting for a chance to play those parts in our nightmares. Yet even after causing this much pain and destruction, he wasn't even happy with that. He didn't stop there. He took it upon himself to be his own representation, knowing full well he would be given the chance to question us as victims and rip open the wounds once again and show no remorse. I can tell you, sitting on the stand that day, reliving the horrific events, having him look in my direction, brought up so many memories and emotions of that night. Hearing his voice made me cringe with disgust and anger. He changed our Adelia that day. He stole her innocent, happy look on life and replaced it with fear and hate that no child at the now age of 10 should ever feel. Although those feelings are warranted, she was forced that day to see the ugly in this world also. And her joyous outlook on the holiday season was stolen. I'm not sure if she will ever again attend another parade, let alone a Christmas parade. I don't know when the unexplained loud noises will ever not take me back to that day and make me jump, make my heart rate increase. However, I do know every day is a new chance. We have to take back our lives and give this man no more than he has already taken. We are now stronger than we ever imagined we would have to be as a family and as a community. And that he cannot have. He does not deserve that. What Darryl Brooks does, however, deserve is to be sentenced to the maximum time allotted for each one of his horrific convictions, as he has given us as a community a life sentence of these memories. Thank you.
Finally, some righteous anger coming out. Everybody's been very reserved so far. I mean, the one mom was very sad. And he just do a let's pick this up thing. That was good. But it's nice to see some raw emotion.
Righteous anger rooted in pain is even more powerful.
Do you think we'll get a hard R today? Do you think one of the parents will drop the hard R?
No.
No. I want I want the oldest man to do it. My wife of 62 years, you. The media would lose their minds. That's the main reason I want it to happen. Oh my
I don't know
God.
that they would, not for Darryl Brooks. I mean, normally I'd agree with you, but not for Darryl Brooks.
I don't know. I think we might even get it then. Darryl Brooks deserved his sentence, but this is inappropriate. you know that would become Cat 10 Barge, Washington Post would be just leading the
There you
charge with
go.
that one.
Yeah, the race is standing up there against him.
Oh my gosh. Fame and V says, check this out. Oh wait, I'll do that one later. That's got a video clip attached. That could be pretty good. The T-Man says, I'm going to launch a lawsuit as a pro se sovereign citizen. Your Honor, you don't have jurisdiction to dismiss my case. Did you see Elon Musk fire that guy over Twitter? Fire the Twitter employee over Twitter the other day? Oh
Really?
my God.
I
Yeah.
missed that.
Yeah. Musk had a random tweet about like why Twitter was slow and apologizing for it. And then one of the engineers like pushed back on him and they had the back and forth. And then eventually the engineer's like, maybe he should ask in private over Slack or something like that. The guy's like, hey, Musk, I don't know if this is the kind of guy you want on your team. He's like, yeah, he's fired. Oh, shit. But the funny thing is Musk didn't ask a question in the first place. So like the response from the team member was completely unwarranted. I get it. I would have fired him too. I would have fired him the first time he said anything. Fire all these people. I don't care about Twitter employees. How long are we gonna wait here?
Do you know how many victims are speaking today?
Like 60.
Wow.
it's I don't know if they're gonna do all. I don't know if they actually have 60 because like the one lady.
Computers because we didn't have a power cord, but no, that one won't.
You didn't have a
He's gonna
power
run and
cord?
grab the power cord and then it should work. We had. Okay. There's a change between what we were using earlier and that's why probably it's not recognizing the computer.
I don't think we're gonna actually have 60 though because we have different people speaking for multiple victims. Minnesota conservative from my locals says 36.
If you want to wait.
Wow. Thanks, Minnesota conservative.
Conservative.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, if only 36 people speak, maybe we'll be done with this today.
She said it will definitely have another day.
Wow.
Because she wanted to digest, and that was a mullet. Did you guys see that thing?
Oh, yeah.
It's magnificent.
He's committed.
I started this in 1986, and I'm not stopping today. Not for nobody, no how.
You may need Miss Gussie back for that.
It's PowerPoint, so just hit enter.
I lost my track.
Looking back over the last 358 days, some days are a complete blur.
Or turn the microphone closer to you.
Can you turn the microphone closer to you? Can you turn down the volume on your husband's hair, please?
Katie Pudliner.
It's like every time he eats a cheeseburger, it grows longer.
Looking back over the last 358 days, some days are a complete blur, others are vivid as yesterday. At 4:39 p.m. on 11/21/21, changed my life, my sons, my family, my friends, and the Waukesha community. During the closing arguments, the defendant spoke of family. His grandmother released her statement to the media speaking of family. Through the past 358 days, we have heard from the Brooks family that the defendant has a mental illness as a reason for his decisions that evening, except the decision making goes back further than that. It seems the decision was made not to get help, not to stay medicated, etc., instead to use it as an excuse for poor, selfish decisions. My family almost lost the only son, the only grandson, the only nephew, and that was not our decision. As a parent, I have carried the guilt.
Mean mugging Darryl Brooks.
That I debated with my son.
Yeah, he's getting off.
Prayed that day.
Eyeing him
It was
down.
mandatory for his grade. The Packers were playing. It was cold and windy. I had to use a life teaching
I'm
moment.
down. That's fine. We'll have a
Made
staring
a commitment
contest.
to the band. this was all part of it. He left reluctantly. I talked to him shortly after I found a parking spot downtown to make sure he was warm enough and told him the general area where I was going to look for a spot to watch the band perform.
Please.
From 4:33 to 4:34 p.m., I watched the South Band march and perform in front of me. As I was packing up my blankets and chair into the wagon, I noticed what I thought was between a 2008 to 2012 maroon red Ford Escape driving extremely fast past me. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I remember making the mental notes about the vehicle, the driver, turned to a friend sitting with me, and we were both in awe. Then we heard the screams and the sounds of things being hit.
Read the chat.
Like when you bump into a construction barrel on the freeway. From 4:46 to 4:58 was complete chaos. Fighting the crowd of people running out of the area screaming shots fired, trying to find my son. As I approached the intersection of Main Street and Barstow, the area went completely dark, maybe only in my mind, as I searched for my son, asking people if they knew where he was. A familiar voice behind me said, "He's over here." I turned to see him laying in the street with his feet pointing north.
First, enter your PIN to unlock the device.
Apologies. We had no idea what had happened,
Angry Mullet
only
Man
that
just
he was
chuckled.
tasting blood
Broke character.
and that his stomach hurt. Soon EMTs were there, and we went for a run up and down Main Street as he was being helped before they had a true plan where they were going to stage the injured. He was taken off the gurney and placed in the street to await an ambulance. This is where we met our first hero of the journey. A complete stranger came to sit with us and help roll my son while he was vomiting blood from his injuries, helped to keep him calm and comfort his fears. That was the 18 minutes that felt like an hour. I remember looking around as I waited. Not too far in front of me was a very young officer with his rifle standing guard. To my left were two brothers that we had known from the band and baseball. One lying on the street, clearly injured, the other standing by. I felt completely helpless as I wanted to go and help them. But I couldn't leave my son injured. They say everything happens for a reason, something I have firmly believed. At 5:16 p.m., we were loaded into the ambulance, as I refer to it as a little ambulance that could. While in the middle of everything, it had a coolant leak. The smell of antifreeze will trigger me forever. We made it out to Oconomowoc, and I learned after that it made another run after that people had died.
Yeah. Can you not?
While my son was whisked away to emergency surgery, I had to start making phone calls, returning text messages, figuring out what was next. Will he make it through surgery? How bad were his injuries? After 6 days at the hospital, we were sent home. My athletic son couldn't lift our cats, pour a glass of milk, put his socks and shoes on. He has a scar almost 2 foot long. And as a catcher, he questioned his ability to be able to play the sport he loves, the sport that he eats, breathes, and sleeps. After missing school and work for almost 2 months, we were able to start to get back and work up to a full-time basis over the course of a month. One lingering injury brought questions if he could play ball for what would be the first full season of his high school career. COVID had canceled and shortened the prior two. April 6th, he took to the field with that bandmate that was lying in the street just a few feet from us just 3 months earlier. As we tried to find a sense of normal in between doctor's appointments and procedures,
Next one, please. Through the process and the journey of the judicial system, we have found a new family, one that can relate to the horror, the fear, the trauma of that night, changing our lives forever. The criminal complaint had listed 62 named victims, now survivors, 6 that gained their wings. What it did not include were the 16 jurors that had also become victims of the defendant's actions that night, while the named victims, their families and friends had to relive that night they were experiencing firsthand. Mrs. Edwards' statement asked that we forgive her grandson, blaming the mental illness, not encouraging him to take ownership for his actions. She said that she lost a grandson, his mother lost a son, his children lost a father. That isn't completely a true statement, as they will be able to talk to him, send him letters, visit him, hopefully in a maximum security prison. They seem to forget there is a mother that can't kiss her son goodnight, a father that can't play ball with his son, a brother that can't fight with his brother and still be his best friend. There are 3 children that can't call their mother for advice, go shopping, plan their weddings, or have them watch over them as they reach for their dreams. There are numerous grandchildren that won't get to go to grandma's anymore, get spoiled and sent home, hyped on sugar and love. There are teenagers that had to grow up way too quickly, having to make adult decisions about their future. There are girls that may never dance again without fear, their innocence taken away by a selfish decision. There is a grandfather that cannot tell the family stories anymore. He can't watch his wife dance. These families will forever be missing their loved ones. They can't call them, write a letter, or visit them. Nothing will bring back the son, the mom, the daughter, the grandma, and the grandfather to these families. Nothing can restore the innocence lost to these, ease their fear. But this community came together to lift up each other up, support each other, looked after those that were in their worst moments, celebrated the wins along the way, returning to the dance floor, dancing in the streets, and playing baseball. The prosecution team did an amazing job representing everyone of the plaintiffs in this case. Thank you. The victim witness team was so caring and diligent in keeping us informed. Being whenever there was a question that came up. Pepper, who greeted us every time we came to the courthouse, she put a smile on everyone's face, brought a little humor or a caring snuggle. You can do the last one now. Your Honor, you are the standard that should be set across the country. Your patience, your diligence will never be forgotten. From the selfish actions
He's
of
15?
one person
Okay.
came to a community.
It's a big boy.
Came from excuse me. From one selfish
Corn and
actions
cheese-fed Wisconsin boy right there.
of one person came a community rising like a phoenix, stronger than ever, stronger together. I ask that you hand down the maximum possible sentence without parole.
He was the victim, this kid?
In prison, so
Yeah,
that
he was
everyone in our Waukesha Strong community can heal, remember, grow, and never have to look back.
We do have a live picture of his first date also right here. Here it is. So that's looking directly into the future from the locals chat. Thank you. And it sounded like the first 2 notes of that Curb Your Enthusiasm thing. When he moved the mic,
I'm
I was
Tyler
like,
Pudliner, victim O. Your Honor, I appreciate the opportunity to speak today and share my impact statement with the court.
It's kids from Wisconsin.
It's been a long time
sounds like
coming,
he's
but I
from
cannot thank the
Arkansas.
courts enough for giving not only myself, but all of us who have been affected the opportunity to share our stories. First, I would like to start off with you, Judge Darryl. Thank you, Your Honor. We have all been going through these proceedings for almost a year now, and it is almost hard to believe that this is the first time that we've gotten the opportunity to communicate with you directly. I understand now that this is how the process takes place. Now, since the beginning of these proceedings, I've obviously gone through a lot of emotions as having been a victim and survivor in this case. I hate to say it like this, but it seems that for a greater portion of the year, and especially throughout the most recent proceedings, and my mother can confirm this, I've been somewhat angry towards you, Judge Darryl. And I would now like to apologize for that. Maybe it's because I either did not understand or did not want to become aware of how lengthy the process was. There have been multiple occasions where I have gotten very mad or annoyed due to your rulings that either didn't go the prosecution's way or that I personally felt shouldn't have been made. Obviously, there were also multiple occasions where these disruptions that would continuously be made by the defendant would take up way too much time and cause way too many delays throughout the trial portion of these proceedings. It would stress all of us out more than we should have ever been, to say the least. I would keep asking my mother, other families involved, the prosecution, and victim witness teams, why can't Judge Darryl do more to stop the disruptions? Why did she let that one testimony go on for way longer than it should have? But in all thanks to those amazing people sitting behind me, I was able to get the clarification and understanding that I need to calm down and help me understand that we were making steps forward in the process. And that we were going to finally arrive at the finish line as winners. That's why I wanted to start off by thanking you first today, Judge Darryl. I am very glad that we have finally arrived at this point in the process where I can say that you did an amazing job throughout the entire process. You have not only shown myself or just the court, but an entire nation and world, for that matter, that you conducted these proceedings with the utmost respect and decorum to all of the parties involved. Lastly, Your Honor, I want to acknowledge your sainthood. Your devotion to this trial can never be matched. Your fair rulings, passion for this case, and kindness to everyone is more than everyone could have asked for, and for that, I again thank you. You've truly become like a mother and a true hero to this community, and for that, we appreciate you, Judge Darryl. I would also like to thank this amazing prosecution team, Sue, Leslie, Zach, Tom, Christy, and Ryan. You guys have been the glue that has held us together throughout this entire process over the past year. You've all taken extra time out of your day to stay late and either be able to answer all of our questions or just talk and reassure us that even though with all those sleepless nights and countless hours of delay, we would be okay. I can confidently say that I don't think there could have been a better team put together to represent us as the plaintiffs in this matter. Just like Judge Darryl, all of you have shown the passion, blood, sweat, and tears and extraordinary effort that has been poured into this case to give us the justice that many have desired and deserve. Consider yourselves true heroes to this community as well. I would also like to highlight Jen and her extraordinary team at Victim Witness Assistance. Again, a group of truly amazing people that I can't say enough words about to describe their amazing work. If we needed a shoulder to cry on, they were there. If we needed to make that late night phone call to get the answers we desired, they answered. We can truly not thank you guys enough for all your hard work and unmeasurable amount of effort that you gave us during this case.
Darryl Brooks over here with his eyes.
And you cannot forget about personally my favorite employee in the entire courthouse, Pepper. You know how they say a dog is a man's best friend? Well, Pepper is an entire community's best friend. I personally, and I'm sure that I could speak for all of us when I say this, could not be more thankful for all the donations that have been made,
the best reading voice of all of
possible. Jen and her staff have done an amazing job keeping her in line. Well, she did what any dog does best. Gives us so much unconditional love.
I'm gonna have him read my next audiobook for me.
You feel like all the problems are gone. Once again, I cannot thank everyone who represented us as the state of Wisconsin. You guys did one hell of a job throughout this process and have truly become a special part of this group. Finally, I want to take the time to describe how the events that occurred on November 21st, 2021 have affected my family and myself. No one thinks that something like those horrendous acts committed by the defendant on 11/20/21 will ever happen to you. Christy, if you could please. I want you to look at that, Mr. Brooks. That's what you did to me that night. That's us in the ER, waiting.
Shit.
I remember bits and pieces, but that is what happened.
Wow.
If you could go on to the next slide, please, Christy. Throughout the past year, I have become very close to other families involved in this matter. All the pictures there have what kept me going. The sport of baseball and all the other families affected in that community. I've gained more little brothers than I can say, and an entire new baseball team to live out the rest of this life with. Next slide, please. I've also met so many new friends post 11/20/21. A new grandmother to add to such a wonderful family, another new brother in that instance that have just helped me get through everything. And it's kept us stronger through the whole process. Next slide, please, Christy. I've also gotten to become closer to other groups that were affected. Last Saturday, I marched with the Milwaukee Dancing Grannies in their Christmas parade. Veterans Day parade, yeah, my bad, sorry. Coming together with other groups like this is something that has, again, shown that we are very strong. We are stronger than the defendant, and we are an entire community that has shown that strength. These memories are what have kept us going and will forever keep us going in this process. Next slide, please, Christy. As I stated before,
thanks, Christy.
Baseball is a sport that has specifically kept me going. Wrestling is another love. I've gotten
Christy,
to meet some very
name of my
cool
first
wrestlers.
girlfriend.
Braun
trivia.
Strowman, to name a few, and Ric Flair. A race car driver, a local race car driver that I pit for at Slinger Speedway, has basically been another grandfather throughout this entire process. He spent every day with us at the hospital for the week I was hospitalized, except Thanksgiving. I've gained another brother who's pictured there at that wrestling event with another part of my truly amazing and big family that I've gained out of this. Christian Yelich, a Brewer, and my favorite player and now manager of the Brewers, Craig Counsell. If you go to the next slide, please. Finally, this right here, this is me and my buddy Eric. We were both affected that day, and we made the return within 3 months of everything happening to come back and play the sport that we love. We did not stay down. We did not cry. Didn't let it get to us. We came back stronger than ever. Yeah, we might have lost, but we played hard and truly showed this entire community that we are stronger together, and we are stronger than you. I just want to also address one more thing to Mr. Brooks. These are 2 quotes that have gotten me through this entire process. You can mark it down in your Bible if you want for this one. It's Romans 12:21. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. The second one, also to go with his grandmother's statement, I picked it up from the book and movie The Shack, written by William P. Young. The quote is, "Forgiveness in no way requires that you trust the one you forgive. Forgiveness is not about forgetting. It is about letting go of another person's throat." And I do want to acknowledge that I am letting go of your throat, but I have not forgiven you. Thank you, Your Honor, for the chance to speak today.
Kid has a huge heart.
Speaking of huge things, I gotta say it.
Is he clapping?
The judge's face is too big.
What were your thoughts about her work? I didn't get really watch the trial nearly as much.
I wasn't a big fan.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she maintained the record well, but she didn't maintain control of the courtroom. She could have just excluded him, left him in that other room. She let him come back way too often.
My name is Sasha Catalan. I was 17 years old when the Waukesha parade incident occurred. I was in my last year of high school, thinking it was going to be the best senior year ever. Although I pushed through and made it to the end, it definitely was not easy for me or for any of us after that one night that changed our lives. I was in the Waukesha South marching band as a clarinet player. How am I doing now? That's really hard to answer because some days I get scared to leave my house, especially now since the holidays are coming around. Even when it's the simplest holidays, my mind always finds a way to go back to that parade incident. Since that day, I don't really know how to act on many events, whether good or bad. What I mean by this is that I don't really know how to show my emotions as much anymore. Before, I used to open up and could easily be read as a book, but now even my mom wonders what goes through my head, and honestly, I wish she knew. But I know that if I were to tell her, she'd be worried for me, which is the last thing that I want. Sometimes I think of what if situations since that day, that if I were to take the place of one of those people who have passed, if it would have happened better. Although I am grateful to have received a chance to continue and to make something out of my life for the better, I get haunted by these thoughts. I used to never think this way, which scares me the most. Not sure whether to live actively and freely, like as if nothing ever happened, or to watch my back on the slightest things. At school, I sort of didn't want to receive any help from those who offered. Not even my boyfriend, which hurt the most. Everyone hated me saying struggle to pick up and carry my books and binders, even carrying my backpack just over a shoulder. I wanted to continue as normally as I could back at school, but that was never gonna happen. I've never felt so weak like that before in my life. I felt empty and I cried. It was hard to carry those books and everything, so I gave in and let those, including my boyfriend, help me out. Even the basics are hard to do, such as write. Either my hand shakes a little, or I would have to use a clipboard for support. Even now, then, my shoulder would pop along with my elbow if I were to simply stretch. I have to relearn how to play my favorite sports, especially soccer, when it came to kicking the ball, since I was injured on my right side of the body. I tried to learn to be a lefty, but it was hard, so I decided to heal and to not give up even with the pain of kicking with my right. To this day, it's hard to sleep because sometimes I do dream of that incident. I wake up sweating from my head with a slight fever. I instantly wake up and try to calm myself down as my heart starts to race. I have to hug something instantly to feel that I am not alone and that I am safe, such as stuffed animal, sweater, or blanket. My family has been even more worrisome and strict to me, even though I am an adult now. They instantly want to know everything I want to do. We have trust, but since the parade, my mom has been nonstop talking about me possibly getting into a car crash, or her never finding me, or something because I didn't aware her of a last-minute plan to go eat or to simply go to a store. I understand I never want her to worry, but at the same time, she shouldn't have to be thinking of such situations. I want to pursue what makes me happy and to not have limits on myself or to feel not as confident because my mom would say that I'm better off with this since I'm safer. My life has not been easy, and I've accepted that it won't be as normal as before. All of this, I still struggle to this day. I just keep moving forward, but I don't know when the nightmares will go away, when I will be completely healed physically and emotionally, having those reenactments of seeing my friends in the band scatter or those on the floor. I just wish that day never happened. Definitely not the adulthood I thought I would be having now, considering I do not know what to go in for college. This is due to me having now an interest in the medical field or law school because of the parade tragedy and wanting to have justice served for everyone in this community. This is how I am to this day. Definitely not the same Sasha as I once was before. I may be stuck finding myself for a period of time, but I am trying my best to not let the incident that affected us all to get the best of me and define who I am and to define who we all are. Thank you.
It seems so broken.
Yeah, anybody who went through this.
I mean, I'm not judging.
And I have a statement from Sasha's mother to read, and then I have 3 more statements from members of the Waukesha South Band in this group, Your Honor.
Like her whole appearance and demeanor speaks for itself beyond her words, you know?
Judge Darryl, I want to express in this letter my feelings since the day of the accident, so to speak. My daughter at that time was a student at South High School and a member of the band, in which some members, including her, were struck by the truck causing injuries. Since that day, I cannot get out of my head all of the screams of pain, anguish, and terror that were heard along that long street with no end in sight. Young children, elderly people, and relatives running to protect themselves. I had mixed feelings, and even worse, my daughter was in the hospital with a lost look and without understanding what had happened. There have been months of uncertainty, of sleepless nights, nervous breakdowns, and foolish thoughts. What hurts me the most is seeing how my daughter has completely changed. From being a girl who wanted so many things for her future to see her now so quiet, so distant, and still so stunned with many questions.
Be interesting to see what she was like talking before the
and so many
incident.
others.
If she became that like
The
kind of
hardest thing to
quiet,
hear is that she would have preferred to
reserved
give her
person
life
from it.
for that of some other person who lost their life. For me as a mother, it is very difficult to be able to tell her that everything will be fine when at the time I was not behind her to protect her from everything that happened. I know that many will say overcome it already, but nobody knows what it's like trying to stand on your feet when your world has no floor. I hope justice is done, and I am thankful to each and every one of you who has not left us alone. Policemen, doctors, prosecutors, angels, and all of those people who I could not name who were and are still here to support us. This is just the beginning for many of us, and it will be a long road, but I am sure of one thing, and that is that we will be able to get back up. Thank you very much. Waukesha, let's hug very tight because our children need us. Mother of Victim I. And this next one, they sent us some photos this morning. Are you ready for them? Thank you, Judge Darryl, for your patience through this trial. Thank you to the entire prosecution team for being so well prepared for this case. And lastly, thank you to Victim Witness Assistance for looking out for all of us. My name is Donald Teagues, and I am the father of victim Q, or Eric Teagues. Both of my sons, Eric and Tyson, were marching with the Waukesha South Marching Band in the 2021 Waukesha Christmas Parade. Eric was a junior and Tyson was a freshman. They were there to play Christmas music for the people and start off the holiday season. That came to a quick end when you, Darryl E. Brooks Jr., drove through the parade killing people, injuring people, and ruining what was supposed to be a beautiful event. And we haven't been told when to do the photos, so Christy, if you can use your judgment, thank you. Darryl Brooks, you hit and ran over Eric along with some of his bandmates. Tyson, his younger brother, was just feet away from Eric when you hit and ran him over. Tyson witnessed his brother getting hit and ran over along with other bandmates. Tyson never left his brother's side during this incident. He even took off his jacket to help keep his brother warm while he laid in the middle of the street. He then had to call his mother and try to explain what had happened. As he stood next to his brother, he saw blood coming out of his ear, nose, and mouth, and his leg that was pointing backwards. He would just keep telling Eric he will be fine and that mom was on her way. He stayed with him until Eric was taken by ambulance to the hospital. Starting that night, Tyson had nightmares and had them for a week. He would wake up screaming and crying. And what made this even worse is he couldn't go to see his brother in the hospital, and my wife and I could not be there for Tyson the first few nights because we were with his brother in the ICU at Children's Hospital. My daughter, who wasn't at the parade, but went with her mother to the parade after Tyson called. She stayed with Tyson at the scene and at home when we couldn't be there. She needed to see a psychiatrist to help her deal with what she saw on the streets that day and seeing her brother lying there on the ground, not knowing if he would live. She had to be in outpatient care for 2 weeks to help her through what she saw. Eric was an aspiring baseball player for the Waukesha South baseball team and a select baseball player for Styx Academy. He was making his final push to get better and wanting to be scouted by colleges to play in college at an elite level. You took that away from him that November day. He spent 9 days in the hospital. 3 of those were in ICU. Eric suffered from a skull fracture, a major concussion, a C4 fracture, right shoulder fracture, 4 broken ribs, a partially collapsed lung, T6 through T11 fractures, and a left femur fracture that required surgery. He is lucky to be alive. The C4 fracture could have killed him. The femur fracture could have killed him, or the broken ribs along with the lung collapse could have killed him. His time in the hospital was very hard, dealing with nonstop pain from you hitting him and running over him like he was a speed bump. He had to lay flat for 4 days and wear a C-collar for 7 days because of the C4 fracture. He had a chest tube to drain the blood off of his lung so he could breathe. He had to undergo surgery to repair his severely fractured femur. On top of all of that, he was dealing with a severe concussion. He could not have any lights on or loud noises. He would have events of uncontrolled vomiting and would spike fevers. When he was finally able to leave the hospital, it was in a wheelchair, and he was in that wheelchair for over a month. We had to have a wheelchair ramp built for when we came home. Without the ramp, it would have been very hard to get him in and out of the house. My wife had to take off a month of unpaid leave from work. I had to take off 3 months from work to take care of him and get him to multiple doctor appointments a week. Darryl Brooks, you stated during this whole trial that you are a man, a God-loving man. You are not. A real man would have stopped when they saw they made a mistake. A real man would have admitted the wrong and would not have put all these families through this pain.
You get him.
God would have stopped, admitted to his wrongs, and asked for forgiveness. You sat there showing no emotions for what you did and pretend that reading the Bible was going to help you. But you, Darryl Brooks, are pure evil that is not fooling anyone. You don't know God, but you better start learning, because where you are going, you're going to need to start praying a lot. You don't deserve to see the light of day ever again. You should never be able to see your children again. It's too bad this state doesn't have the death penalty, because you would be put to the front of the line. I hope you rot in hell, have a miserable existence in prison, and that someone teaches you a true lesson in asking for forgiveness.
There we go. Thank you. Finally, some fire. Let's get some passion.
The next statement is...
I only regret it wasn't the victim themselves saying it.
I know, gosh.
It's been nearly a year since the Waukesha parade incident, and I know my friends, family, and myself still remember it vividly. Personally, I have an injury that could affect me the rest of my life. Doing normal things like carrying groceries or even my school supplies to classes have proven to be more of a challenge compared to what it used to be. And some mornings I'm not even able to lift my arm past my shoulder. It's hard, but I'm living through it because I refused a long time ago that I would have this man, someone who thought of no one and nothing past the incident, control what I can and can't do. I can't remember vividly what happened, just pain sparking up from the back of my head and my shoulder and people standing over me. It wasn't until I woke up the next day after everything and tried to stand up did I realize how much pain I was truly in, and it only got worse the following days. My progress in what I can do with my injuries over this difficult year has been positive. I've rebuilt most of my strength